He was kind of restricted on his own way, unfortunately, but it was done by Dragon Force. Wait, are we doing anything else today, or are we going to bed? Hello. Hello, chat. Hey, I already have it. All you need to do is just click on it. Hell no.
This boy crazy.
That game is a...
I've not. I've heard very good things, though.
Hello, chat. Welcome.
Hello.
We're live.
We're
Yeah,
live.
Spartan.
I actually didn't. I'm giving Cat a view.
Coming in here at 7:20, thinking CAD's not live. SMH.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the ignorance on my part. Yes.
I know, right? That's why we have
There
to
we go.
always warn you whenever he's live. Don't know what out-of-pocket things might say.
That's crazy, Steve. What the fuck?
First, Steve, don't self-reflect. Alrighty, thank you.
I don't know what you're talking
Hey, who
about.
put that song before me? How dare you? Hey, Shadow. That was. That's okay. You know why? Because that'll play after your live. Damn. You don't know what just happened, but that's what I call secret technique flex. Yeah, you're live right now
Yeah.
on Twitch. Now you're not live on Twitter. I think you were live the whole time until you got your stream up again. That's weird. I know you were. Yeah. Yo, y'all ready to pog champ? Bust out your emotes! Get your lights ready! Get that cat cheer on. Where is it? Thanks.
That's the only real ones will have the Cat and Two Love Trouble combo. Oh, there we go.
Hell yeah.
Jesus Christ. Oh boy, Back for Blood's on sale.
Oh boy, Back for Blood's on sale.
Oh boy, Back for Blood's on sale.
Oh my god,
Oh
it's
shit,
looping.
Back
Can
for
you shut
Blood's
your
on
mouth?
sale.
Hey, thanks for the resub. Arch
Hey, thanks for the
Requiem, big preach,
resub.
brother. 42 months, that's a long time.
42 months, let's go, baby!
42
Happy
months. That's a
Friday, you're
long time.
free? Hey, free feels good, man. Yes. 2 Assassin.
Oh.
2 and 5.
Jack here, Sanson. Got him.
Where's your hunting soul? Bust them out! Sir.
Ah,
We're cuckoo for
enjoy your
cocoa.
monster
Bye,
hunting.
chat.
では前に出ます
I asked Trumps to put this in the queue because, one, it's just a banger song from the new Dan to Dan episode, and two, it is very appropriate for today's stream. But I hope everyone's doing good. Okay, let me start getting the rest of this plugged in. We should be good to go. Did you just say hello there, breeders? Monk S. Okay, I did get the go live tweet out. Do me the favor, chat. Go give that some love. And let's see, where are today's sauces? All right, should be good on that end. I just realized this theme sounds like the Ort theme. And I never realized how close those two sound. So Jack is Ort confirmed. Okay. Let's get this party started, shall we? Question mark? Yeah. Like, if it is the actual Jack the Ripper theme, it sounds very close to the Ort theme. Very close. Here's today's artwork. Do me a favor, go give the artist some love. It is Shiki. It is Shiki being unfathomably based, as usual. Okay. Chat, this is actually the first soda I have had since, like, Monday. And I'll probably only drink this cup. So, not doing bad. Health-wise, like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's like I'm actually, like, losing weight and stuff now. I'm definitely getting healthier. I've still been managing to occasionally, like, throw in a couple of, like, exercises here and there. Haven't gotten to the point where it's like, oh yeah, I'm working out consistently and stuff like that. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm eating right and I'm trying to stay more active, it's helping. So, Ahado, thank you for the 41. Appreciate it, my dude. Jack, can we get some love? Classic Shiki, indeed. 5-day countdown till JP summer. Yep. We basically are. We found out today. I believe it was the Chaldea Radio dropped it, that the stream date is the morning of the 13th. So if you guys haven't, again, go follow Mr. Two Love Trouble. He will be breaking the news live as it happens. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting thing. I think a lot of us have been waiting on the summer for a long time, but let's see kind of what comes out of it. I am part way through, so you guys are only going to get part tonight of the Nasu and Takuchi interview, because unfortunately, for better or for worse, I just do not have Wait, why is that blocked out? Oh, it's blocked out. Okay, I see. Oh, wait, we have 13 days on this? Oh, fuck that. I'm not doing that right now. So, because this has so much duration, we can wait until the hunting quests are over. Like, that is literally free real estate on those. And yeah, you do have complete 3 hunting quests a day. That will be a thing for every day, so make sure you guys are doing that. But yeah, no, I was sitting there thinking like, oh man, I gotta do that, but I don't know that I do. What's really weird about this is, like, so for instance, I'm thinking about it from like the alt accounts perspective. It's like, hey, you have 13 days, and each one of these is going to increase. So yeah, this is the first singularity, the second, and then the third. And then let's see. Oh, or is that just it? Is it only those? Yeah, but it's the same thing in the N3 HQ runs and done. Oh no, I'm just simply stating that that these particular quests we can leave until after the hunting quests are over, and it shouldn't be a big deal, or at least until like you don't feel like grinding, right? Now I'll show you guys what I'm doing for the hunting quests, but just a bit of a PSA and reminder. Remember, chat, it takes your event support, so make sure you guys are doing that. Actually, I will also. I had switched over my supports, but the one thing I hadn't done is I had not put up like the craft essence for that stuff. So most people probably aren't wanting the bond. They're probably wanting the bone. So I will put that up instead for people. Where's my QPC? That's already being equipped. Is it? Ah, it's on Reigns. Okay. Not what I wanted. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so that should at least get up units that people quote unquote want. I always hate where it's like, oh, I didn't hit okay. Rotaria Pope Johanna, support Castoria clearing easy. Oh, I haven't tried that with wait. Scortoria, Pope Johanna, and support Castoria. Are you doing it with only 3 units? So you're not taking a third support? Am I the only one with a frozen live stream? Probably, because I showed that it's fine. I don't show any drop frames. Yes, use the new Summer Mystic code. I haven't needed it. I don't think you have the damage for that, Ahado. Like, how are you managing that? With MLB Black Grails working. I'm just debating if I'm missing something here. What I was doing is I was just doing I guess I'll show you guys what I was doing. But yeah, I guess I'll take a Bone Sea, but some of y'all don't have MLB. So this is literally what I was doing. Right here. That explains it. I didn't realize that. I thought I... Watch. I'm not even shitting you. Just watch, chat. Let's see. Non-bond 10 2-star. That's going to be Gareth. Gets the backline bond. I swear to God that I had Black Grail on when I started making the comp, but something must have happened. Because, like, when I did it earlier today, I won't spoil it. You'll see, chat. So, behold. This can't fail, right? I don't think it can on these. It does fail on the final enemy, though. I can't really get it to work on the final enemy. So all I did was this. Now, what's interesting is I bet I'm about to see a different number. So I was just barely coming up short. And now that I think about it, yeah, like I don't know why I was questioning you on damage because my Scortoria should absolutely be able to do this much. But like when it was happening, I was like, okay, I can't get my Scortoria to hit hard enough. And now I'm realizing that there's a reason for that. And that the reason for that is that I didn't have damage C equipped at all. I didn't even have it all attack C equipped. So of course it didn't have enough. That's so funny to me. Because like basically even the solution that I was looking for earlier this morning, it would have literally just been solved by me swapping the CEs around in the comp. But it's just like at the time, it did not occur to me. Yeah, I told you. Oh, I mean, I didn't even use Black Grail. Chat, you don't want to see that if I use Black Grail. But yeah, let's try. So you said what? You said Pope Johanna was your other with a support square Castoria? Um who needs Bond? I can maybe do Durga and swap this back to Mash. Yep. Oh, it's more interesting. Then let's go to an actual 4-star. I don't need the QP. Or do I? No, we're close to a lotto. I don't need the QP. Let's go with that. And then where's the new one? There it is. Because I haven't finished leveling this. All right, so Ahado, how close? Like, how close is it on your end, and what NP level of Scritoria are you working with? Because if I can fit all of these Cs, I gladly will. But if I can't, it was NP4. Was it grailed? But I use MLB Black Grail. No level 90. Let's try. If it fails and it doesn't clean kill, I don't think this comp is going to have issues. So this will probably be the first test. Is like if the damage here is just bad, then okay. So we still overkilled. Okay. It's not going to kill here. That's the problem. Wait, I'm smarter than this. I see Cat is also using Squirtle to clear this. Oh, you absolutely should, especially after that update. That update just makes her like the de facto solution for things like this, but this is still going to come up short. It's 200k. This will be close. I mean, it takes a little bit longer because of having to rely on a Castoria, but there you go, chat. There's your 6th slot. Now, that I don't know if that'll work consistently, though. I think part of that is also going to depend on things like appends. Not worth? I think it's plenty worth. I'll do that because I'm not going to get a card here. So I'm surprised you aren't doing Zerctoria, Castoria, Squirtoria, and Summer 8. That's what I'm doing. Why? I don't need to. Okay, so chat, let me also clarify. I am not using Black Grail. This is 6 slot. 90 plus plus. So that we're clear, this just hard works, and it's kind of freaking hilarious that it does. Whale strats? Yes. This is pretty much only possible because my Squirtoria is bullshit. Did you swap out the K-scope on Nito? Yes. Let's see if the damage variance is things. That was lower, so this one might not clear. Yeah. Oh no, it's a 4 turn. But see, chat, I'm also like, this is bones, okay? I'm not gonna probably like sit here popping apples on this. This is literally do my 3 runs, spin my AP down, and we're Gucci. Hunting quest for someone like me, I'm just gonna try to get the most I can out of each run. Because realistically speaking, it does not matter. Like, okay, let me hit the button. I am not in the bone zone. So I'm not sitting here trying to like farm as fast as possible. It does not matter. Cat is the sort of his bones. Killed Bones so long ago too. Yep. Yeah, Bones. Chat, Bones, you want a wild stat. Bones have been dead to me since this point. That's how long ago Bones died. So, and the reason why I have always farmed Lottos pretty profusely. So because of that, I've always been ahead on Bones. And I just kept future-proofing myself. Like, and that's why. And you know, if you're a student of the game, you might know that like 6k bones is not enough to cover all bone needs in the game. I believe the number, if I had to go check, it's probably somewhere around like 12k for every bone need in the game. But chat, that is 6,000 bones left after handling like all of my needs. Like, I'm sure I've handled like 95% of my need and I still have 6k left. So Class Core Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, oops, all bones. Yeah, that's pretty much what they'd have to do. Like that. So now you guys understand, though, too, why it is that the devs have to add new materials over time. Because there are people that are just legitimately done. Like, they have farmed out everything. So, will you eventually try to 999 everyone in your account? No. I will not eventually try to. I will eventually get forced to. Put another way, I will literally have nothing else to do. Is what it is. But I have put that off for a long time. And part of the reason I've put that off is because that is truly the last vestige of having stuff to do in FGO. Once you like 999 all of your units, you've worked on like everybody's appends that you can, you've leveled everybody up, you foed everybody, you start running out of actual goals. Like you don't have anything to actually work on. And in a weird way, you could argue the game gets hard then, because it becomes hard to enjoy. It becomes hard to like have a goal, hard to like actually spend anything because you have nothing to spend it on. That's only if they stop releasing Arturia faces. Hey, chat. So far, Anniversary and Summer on JP are an outer bust for that. So we'll see. Like, let me think. Who was the last Saber face that the game had? Because we just got Draco and Zerktoria here. And then I think it was last summer. It was MH Yeah, I think that is. So it's like it has been a year since a Saber face. Like, and that was kind of a one-off in and of itself. Oh, Metatron, you're right. So we did have another one. I did forget. Well, Metatron's done already for me, but yeah, like, so I don't know. Lartria Copium. I mean, yeah, I think I would hope that like Lalter is the one that gets some attention, right? Like at this point, that's definitely a thing. All right, chat. Time to die. So you just watched me shit on this quest. Now watch me suck. This is not fun. That's all I'll tell you. And this, chat, this should show you the real disparity in power. Not only of like NP levels and grailing, but quite literally, like I have Chasmatus. That's kind of my best go-to thing here. This is the level of power difference. Actually, I guess I could use this. It's split stats. How much attack does Chasmatus have? 500. And this is 355. So I lose some attack, but I gain 10% arts and buster card effectiveness, damage cut, and the self-charge. Kind of a toss-up, actually. I'll try it. But yeah, it's like, it just is what it is. No Black Grail? This account doesn't have it. So like, that is the sheer, like you'll see the sheer difference here. Is this Chadroth? Yes. Where's this account at in main story? It has started and completed the first 2 nodes in America. New broth? Yes. What's up, Thomas? Which America? What do you mean, which America? I'm just asking for reasons. Darkest Nightblade and Bunky, thank you guys for the follows. Welcome. Part 1 or part 2? Part 1. Oh yes, Ordeal Call 5 Detroit, please. Please, we all know that would be a lost belt, okay? So, behold, chat, that was turn 1. I did not kill. Oh yeah. Get ready. This is gonna be a wild ride. I just started playing last week. Oh, perfect. You're at the perfect time. I'm a veteran of the game. I've been playing for years, and I have started a new player account to show people how to get into the game. So This is actually that exact account. Send him to Detroit. No! No, anywhere but Detroit! So this is what it looks like to not have Black Rail, yes. To be fair, I don't even have, like... I'd have to go check. I'm not even sure I have, like, Dragon Kend even on this account yet. So, like, this account, low-key kind of rough in that regard. In the regard of, like, the units that it's already rolled, this account is so stacked, it's ridiculous. Like, it's actually crazy how well off this account already is for units. Previously on X-Men? What? Started playing 2 years ago and somehow I got a level 40 Black Grail. I guess I'm just lucky. No, that's fine. Like, Black Grail is just one of those things. It's a permanent CE, so some people get really lucky with it. Other people get really unlucky with it. And if you're, like, free to play, you don't necessarily roll enough to, like, be able to change those odds. I can pull off another NP here. And I think I will. No idea what a Black Grail is. Black Grail, aka the Black Grail, is basically one of the more powerful craft essences that you can equip in the game. Craft essences are the things that you equip to your units. Sort of like equipment in other games. But it's basically just one of the most powerful ones in the game because it gives you a ton of Noble Phantasm damage up. And so it's like, usually people get a lot of stuff done with Noble Phantasms. So it is considered to widely be like just the game's most powerful craft essence. And it's a permanently available thing, but it also never gets a rate up because of that. So sometimes it's just like all gonna come down to luck for an account. Why do you think the game likes the Sharkmen so much? They seem to pop up randomly in singularities nowadays as a random character during story. I don't feel like we see them that often. But I guess it's because they're a type of monstrous creature. I don't know. I hate that shark on wave 2. It's not a skeleton. Well, I still death proc it. Is that what you're trying to do? Sharknado summer event win, right? I like the sound they make when they enter the field. That's the one downside, is because the like sound delay that I've been having lately. I don't really play with sound on anymore for you guys. And normally during the day I'm at work, so a lot of the time I don't get to hear FGO anymore, and it feels bad, man. Use it or lose it at this point. Gonna go ahead and pop the Noble Phantasm because I don't think it'll matter too much. Do you have Nito? I do. I have Nito, but I don't have a K-scope to like double Nito proc, so like I could handle the first two waves pretty easily, but then this Skeleton King ad would just be atrocious. FGO soundtrack could be peak. You're missing out. Oh, I'm aware. Like I've played with it on for a long time, right? Just that, yeah, it's unfortunate, basically. Yeah, I don't have any other 10% charge. So I'm just gonna send that. Not even a cope scope? No. Nope. This account is like basically a month old. So it just has not rolled enough yet. The big time it's going to roll next is probably with the 30 million downloads campaign. Sorry, not downloads. It's not 30 million. It's the 3,000 days campaign that is coming up in September for NA. And we know when it'll be because we know when our 3,000 days will be. But basically, when that happens, we should get another Castoria banner. I will go for her. Once I have Castoria, then it's just about finding a good AoE carry. And then this account is like, it's going to be able to handle just about every single piece of content that gets thrown at it. Cat, if you have trouble being a new player, I have the perfect guide for you. I don't. The only like hard part about this is literally having to run a third account. I play NA, I play JP, and now I have a new player account. So like that's literally the only hard part. Because again, it's not like I don't know the mechanics, right? It's not like I don't know what to expect. Let's do that. Okay, now we're in a little bit of a weird spot, but I can still stall him for another turn should the need arise. Do it like that. Get everybody to their NP. If I can. And I couldn't. So I could scuff that. This would be a good time if you were like a new player to learn about scuffing in that regard. Which would be that I could say, go back and like I could kill the instance of the game that's running and basically wind that back a turn in order to do that. Because the AI just pulled actual bullshit on me. But that is also something at this point that I think we're just used to. So this just makes this take even longer. But it is what it is. Okay. I have the makings of a pseudo-invincible comp, so this is kind of hilarious. Basically, I'm gonna win one way or the other. But it is very funny that the thing killed my actual, like, carry DPS. So, it is what it is. But yeah, if I had, like, Castoria already rolled, for instance, I could actually take a support Squirtoria or something like that to be the carry DPS instead. Yeah, you not get no damage output, bro. I'm just gonna go ahead and pop that. Waver's not gonna get the charge, but there's no use popping Waver's in P this turn. So it be what it be. In 2 more turns, I can rotate. Who did I have in the back line? It's a level 1 Tristan. It's a level 1 Tristan and Mash. So yeah, I just need to kill this way. Based off that, my actual go-to carry is right there. So we're just gonna give Proto Merlin all the buffs here, since she's actually effective and can card him out. Pro just keeps stacking Noble Phantasm up. Okay, so then boom, boom, boom. So you can see I can sit here and kind of keep doing a little bit of like hilarity in the sense of I can drain him, I can stun him, I can curse him, I can keep regenerating my Noble Phantasm, I can heal everybody, I can just sit here and slowly kill this guy with 1,000 cuts. Because he is not going to kill me unless I just, like, mess up my skill or ability timing. And this is sort of what a stall composition looks like in the game. And at this point, stall compositions are actually very offensive as opposed to the way that they maybe are otherwise. And that's just due to the fact that some of your best, like, stall supports now are actually offensive supports. Okay, so I still have that. We will hold on to that, and I will go ahead and use the Castoria Noble Phantasm. It's going to give me more stacks of Solemn Defense, but the real thing that I'm after here is just boosting Lady Avalon's cards, especially because this is the turn that she still has the arts up. So you can see we did decent damage thanks to those crits. I can pop this again, and it's probably worth it just to keep it rolling. And then I think we'll just mighty chain it. It isn't going to be like that good of damage, but at the end of the day, I'm mostly just trying to like get the Castoria card there, a little bit of extra NP gen for Castoria. Is this the free-to-play account? Yes. The free-to-play account is turning this into a challenge fight. But it's not, it's honestly, this is not a challenge. Like, this is completely under control. The skeleton basically can't do anything right now. Which makes it quite funny, honestly. Like, the best thing the skeleton can hope for is that he, like, insta-gibs one of my units with multiple crits. Because this is just going to keep happening to him. I've been watching the new King of the Hill season, and it's way better than I was expecting. I like, everyone I've heard about it says that it's actually good, which is wild. Because I would have thought not, right? It's like, it's been years, they did a time skip, and yet somehow people are saying it just works. Bladeth, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Okay, so now we have an interesting little stack here. And I know exactly what I'm going to do. We're basically going to prioritize that one double arts with crit damage buffed card, and boom, there you go. So now he's almost dead. And we actually have all three noble phantasms. So this will be a check to see if we can kill. I can probably kill with that at least. So we'll go with that. Basically, I'm just going to try to utilize a noble phantasm into a like triple arch chain so that this is not only going to be a brave chain that'll give me an extra attack, but because it's triple of the same card type, that brave chain's extra attack will hit harder. And there you go. Kills. Didn't even need the extra attack. Could you explain what the hunting quest for? Sorry if it's a stupid question. Feel free to ask any stupid questions. There are no stupid questions, only stupid people. But no, hunting quests are primarily designed to be a mechanism by which you can get a lot of drops. So you can see here, look how many bones I managed to get off of that clear. I also got a permafrost ice, which is another essential material. I get some nice QP. You can see I'm getting about 1 million per, which if you actually run like QP craft essences, you can probably get close to the equivalent of an actual treasure vault run. And I'm also getting embers. So this is just good for the new player account to run all around, because this is giving me so many materials that the account needs. Okay, let's go back out. Astral, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Yeah, this is just hunting quests are usually a good time to farm ascension mats, but they have upgraded the hunting quests over the years so that now they're just a pretty good like confluence of multiple factors. Plus the initial clear will get you like some mana prisms, so it's worth. It's definitely worth. Bones, yeah. Oh, we have Bazette on raid up right now? I don't remember that. Damn, I wish I didn't have Castoria coming, because Bazette would be... Oh, because this is for Hollow Ataraxia. Okay. So, for those of you guys that haven't seen, they just recently released Hollow Ataraxia on Steam in English, so you guys can now play it. But yeah, I guess they did a pickup summon. I saw they were giving away a pickup craft essence. I didn't see that they were doing a pickup summon. So yeah, looks like you also have Karen on raid up right now too. That is definitely nice. And then the hunting quests themselves have a banner. And then we still have I think this is... Yeah, you have like 2 more days left on Summer Scotty, which I could try rolling for her. But again, Castoria is so close, I dare not. This is the one that, if anything, I would probably roll for, because that right there, that is my like AoE carry. There is the AoE carry unit that I've been looking for. In the sense that she is a berserker that has 50% charge. She is arts, which fits with my current like support setup scheme. So like that works. But the problem is it's probably better on me to get Castoria for the time being because I'm not going to have like infinite Castoria banners. So YOLO roll, CAD? Nope. We're going to play it the way it should be played. Because like if this were my NA account, I would just spend money and I would make it happen. And that is absolutely a thing. If you're a whale and you're starting out the game and you know you're going to spend money on the game, by all means, go right in. But for this account is entirely free to play. This account's not going to go after something like that. Actually, let me check. Let me see if there's anything I can do about skill levels here real fast. It's filtering to 4 and 5 star. It's probably not a bad idea. No, I can't do anything with Castoria Berserker at the moment, nor can I do anything. Dude, I need a seed hunting day. That's what I need. Seeds are like low-key the bane of this account's existence right now. Which sucks, because I can actually farm them. I believe the first seed node that you can farm is Okeanos. But I'm just kind of sitting here going like, I'd rather not spend the AP on that right now. So like the alternative would again be just taking somebody's ridiculously powerful unit. But one, it looks like a lot of the people on this friend list have not figured out that this uses event support. And two, even if they do, like, so for instance, here's an unupgraded Squirtoria with 111 skills, 80 out of 90. The craft essence is not bad, but also, wait, chat, is Dive to Blue available right now for purchase on NA? This wasn't one of the first batch, was it? Hey, Brainrod, thank you for the follow. No, okay. So that means this account is excessively old, which also, the fact that they're 147, this means that this person probably logged back in for the anniversary and they're not actually playing the game. It is what it is, chat. Like, I'm not going to get like upset at the person, but that's my sign that that's probably not going to be a reliable person support-wise. I have a better nickname than you? Sure. That's not bad. That would at least be a much more effective unit. No, I think we're good. I think I will continue to do Castoria here, but I gotta find somebody that has MLB of the Bone C. There's Suki. I mean, that'll work. How can I play the game? I'm European, used APKs, cracked it in emulator, but yeah, it's a pain in every patch. Yeah, usually you just have to like go download the APK every single time. But yeah, it's like I assume if you're European, you're gonna have to be doing like a VPN and stuff to get around some of that. Probably need to level him up. Actually, do I have a saber that I want to level at the moment? We could start leveling some of like my other AoE capacities, because obviously Hoku Saber's all the way leveled up. And so that probably makes Lily the next best candidate. I say that, it may be Faber is who gets leveled, but I'll go ahead and I'll slot Lily into the back line for right now. Because if it gets down to Lily, we're in trouble already. I wish instead that I could like use this CE But unfortunately, that would just require me to start out without the waiver in the party at that point. I could do that, but it's not the best solution for me at the moment. I am a madman attempting to register all 10th anniversary Cs. I only got around 18 or left so to look at. Yep, I see people that do that all the time. If there's a country in Europe that allows it. How would you rate Bizet? Bizet is extremely good. The issue at play is like, do you have the supports to properly like support her? Because the big thing with her is that her damage and her counter effect are very strong if you have quick supports. But the thing that quick supports lack is they lack like sustainability and like hard survivability for ally units. So one of the things that I frequently will do with like a Bizet is I might actually run like a Castoria or like a Reigns or something like that alongside her, so that the Bizet actually gets a little bit more hard survival, because Bizet herself has a dodge. And so if you have another unit that say has like invuln on one of their skills, you can slot that on Bizet. And then basically at worst case, then you're only looking at like maybe one turn of not having hard protection. So odds are they're not going to kill the Bizet in that one turn. But if you give them like maybe 2 turns, they might. So that's one of the reasons why. Because the entire time, Bizet, if you're looping her NP, will be taunting them. So they're not going to attack anybody other than Bizet. So that's something you have to watch out for with her. But if you set it up right, yeah, she's incredibly strong. And she's actually one of like the fastest clears in the game of like any given node, because of that counter mechanic. So she can kind of just invalidate an entire break bar basically with it. I have both Reigns and a Castoria. Yeah, so what you would want then is you would want like the Scotties to help actually boost her damage. But I mean, like, yeah, you could still like take like Reigns and a Castoria and like one Scotty. You're not going to deal as much damage on the counter there, but you could still do some decent stuff. So at that regard, she can definitely be pretty effective for you. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to send this again. Not going to be a quick clear. That is just the nature of this chat. But hopefully the stupid Skeleman does not insta-give me again. So she can clear high-level hard content with NP1? Yeah. Getting additional MP levels on her does help, but it's not like the big thing is like actually getting the counter gimmick by getting her. So as long as you have that, you'll be a lot better off. But again, you'll see without the Scotties, the damage may be a little bit suspect at times. Let's go ahead and do that. 53, I think. I'm just shy. Damn. Oh well. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and we'll basically get the what we're trying to do here is we're trying to set up Proto Merlin here, aka Lady Avalon, to get her Noble Phantasm kind of going, because her Noble Phantasm gives max HP up, it gives critical stars per turn, and it also gives NP charge per turn to the entire party. So getting her NP going kind of starts this looping scenario where like her and the Castoria are going to start getting to their NP regularly. Scope, thank you for the follow. Welcome. LA needs a buff. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see who gets the caster buffs. We have back-to-back 5-star caster days here, and I think that's going to be really interesting. Okay, so I can go with the triple arts chain, and that's probably to my benefit because I'm going to get an additional 20% charge there by doing that, and then the arts cards are going to top me off. Problem is, I'm going to lose a lot of these buffs. You see, this is what I fear is like the shark eventually beating me to death here. I have an actual Brave Chain, so let's go with that. Especially because it's kind of redundant to get Castoria with Castoria Berserkers NP. Only one of them can go into effect, so... You have to be careful when you're playing with Castoria and Castoria Berserker as to what order you put them in, because Solemn Defense is a unique buff. You can only have one. And that results in some like interesting shenanigans, because usually the support version's Solemn Defense is better. But it definitely depends on like what you're doing. Okay. Don't mind if I do. I'll just take the Triple Arts Brave Chain. So you can see we're actually going into the final wave here with full health. Like, no real issue. And that's the only thing that really happened last time, is I probably should have stunned the guy. But I took a risk. It didn't work. It was what it was. I'm actually going to do that, and then we're going to full charge the Castoria Berserker that way. So this is going to start getting the like pseudo invincible comp going. And one of the reasons you'll see me put Castoria supports NP second in this sequence is that gives it overcharge. That overcharge stack then grants her an additional Solemn Defense stack. So now instead of having one hit that we can take with no damage, now we have two. So this starts to actually really add up over time. And the true invincible comp variant will have you having like 4 stacks of anti-enforcement defense. So you can see, like, it's tough for the boss to, or sorry, not the boss, but the skeleton here to actually like deal effective damage and hit me well enough. I am going to go ahead and throw the NP gain up on OG Castoria there, and then we're going to create an Arch Chain again. And this is, again, just to keep abusing the 20% mechanic there. Though, to be fair, pretty much Castoria Berserker only had 1 card anyways, so. Usually if I'm playing through story, I actually turn the sound on, because yeah, it is really, really nice. This is a weird one. So I have 2 choices. I can go with the chain for Proto Merlin, or I can just say, hey, let's Mighty Chain. And I think it's what we'll do as long as we actually have our unit on the field. But now we got to start watching out. The good news is the crit chance down on the Skeleton King is not gonna like let him crit us very easily. So I wasn't worried about him like insta-gibbing my Castoria Berserker that time around. Okay, that should be enough there. Gonna go ahead, fire off a Noble Phantasm there. And actually, this decent buff synergy here, so we'll go ahead and pop the Mystic Code buff. I could do an Arch Chain. This would get Castoria to hers, but I think we're going to be greedy as long as we have the buffs, and we're going to try to go for the Brave Chain to get the most damage. But also because I know I have like a bailout. I have 2 different bailout moves that I can use here to deal with the enemy's Noble Phantasm. So what I mean, the stream stopped for like 2 to 3 seconds and starts back. It's weird. On Twitch? You guys are saying that's happening on Twitch? Because like I don't show any issues on Twitch. Is that like a unique thing to CAG? Because, well, I say that CAG's the second person that's brought that up. There we go. We're just going to keep firing this off again. It's probably going to stop the skeleton doing it. Lower the quality and it's fine now. Yeah, I mean, like, it could be your net. Like, I don't want to, like, blame you and everything, but, like, it could also be something on the Twitch end. So, I don't see an issue on my end, but that doesn't mean there's not an issue, if that makes any sense. So this is the problem, is I'm doing the 90++ variant of this node. It's naturally going to take this account longer because, like, This account really has no business being in a 90++ node, but it's working. And one of the reasons that it is working is because basically this comp actually has pretty decent damage for its level and is nigh unkillable. So like you saw, even in the prior run, it killed my damage carry, and it still was not able to kill me. I still beat the node. And in this one, it's barely even touched anybody here because it had to actually get lucky last time to even pull that off. Plus, I had to willfully ignore a danger moment there. Which there was incentive to do so, but not necessarily something I'll do all the time. Okay, so I will take the effective damage because we're at about 115k. This NP probably doesn't kill, but we'll get very close with the cards, and I should be able to kill it on the next turn. Maybe it's because the screen I use is not meant to take that kind of quality. Yeah, I do stream in 2K now, so if you don't have like a 2K monitor, there's no real reason to like set the stream to that because you won't be able to see the difference. And actually, I said the NP wouldn't kill, but it basically did, so there we go. You can see I'm getting 54k. This is going to inflate this account's master level. It's going to make it look way better than it actually is. There you go. Not as good of rewards that time, but that's also just kind of the issue. And that person's at their max friend limit. Unfortunate. I have enough for one more run. I know, chat, you don't want to spend all day on the alt account, but I do, A, have to do my 3 runs, and B, get this, like, AP spent down. So I am going to take advantage of it. I have no idea how I have all 3 beasts. Well, you rolled for them. That's how. How do you have a limited unit? You rolled. Which doesn't save the setting. Yeah, I don't know why that is the case. I wish that'd be good. YouTube also used to do that, and now YouTube kind of doesn't save settings either. And I don't know why these like major social media giants can't seem to figure that out. There's somebody with an MLB. I gotta find a casteray that has an MLB. That way I can see if I can get them on my friends list, but probably not gonna matter. But usually it's a good sign if they have an MLB of the Bone Sea, because that means they've probably done all of their advanced quests, so they'll have it for other days as well. Oh, and it's a grailed one. Let's go. You still need support for the new account? I have some space. Everyone always asks me. I always reject everyone. With the new account, I don't want to cheat. So I am playing the account the way that like a new player to the game would play the account, kind of, right? Like obviously I'm making the right moves and stuff like that, but basically I am not trying to give myself an undue advantage. Like, so for instance, if you added my account, why did you add my account? It's probably because of who I am, right? And I'm not saying this to be like full of myself. I'm saying it literally in the sense of like, you're my viewer, you're trying to help me out, you're trying to do a nice thing. But if I was a new player starting the game, would you actually add me? Some of you would. Some of you wouldn't. Some of you might just go, I don't know who this person is, right? Like, so furthermore, you wouldn't even necessarily think to add me. You might go, hey, you know what? This is like somebody that I don't know, or like they wouldn't even meet you in the first place in order for that to be a thing, right? Curse you, Bale! Gonna actually just card this because I think I can do it with a crit. Bro, did you really not? Oh my god. That will happen to chat. That's all I can say is that too shall happen. I think it was either a 70 or a 90% crit there. And it didn't crit. And that's going to happen to you over time. You're going to have moments where like you think it's a guaranteed thing and then the game says no. And the reason that matters because all of these arts buffs fall off now. So I would have had one turn with all of them up to like NP the shark here. And now, wait, it's not a shark, it's a skeleton again. But now it's like, nope, I don't get that. I can go with some guaranteed crits there, but I'm literally just going to go with the refund. Refund here and just being able to do the Noble Phantasm over and over and over and over again is actually the most important. Hey, what's up, Sleepy? I reserve a few slots just for under-leveled accounts to help out. Yeah. Like I said, it's not a judgment thing on you guys so much as just like, if you're a new player joining the game, you're like just going to go around, you're going to spam accounts, and if people accept you, they accept you. And that's basically it. You're never going to use that player and then go, I know I'll add them as a veteran player. It will always be the reverse. It will always be the newer player like trying to use your units and asking to be on your friends list. And that's why. So it's like when you guys are like, hey, I'll add you, Cat. I'm like, no, yeah, that's not the way the function would work. I will say, though, there is at least one person that is one of my subscribers that they randomly showed up on the list. I used their unit. I sent them a friend request. I don't know if they've accepted it. In fact, I would argue they have not, because I have not seen them show up in the support list. So, it is what it is. Gasp? No, I mean, it's fine. Like dead serious. That is actually the realistic experience of playing FGO, right? People do not check their supports sometimes. Even if they do, like, for all I know, they may have rejected me, right? Like, it just is the way it is. And that's exactly what I'm trying to showcase. I'm trying to show people that, like, yeah, it's not a guaranteed thing. Who is it? A mystery? Yeah, I don't want to out the person. I don't want to, like, we don't need to go publicly shaming them, chat. But it is what it is. And I find it really, really interesting because it is the exact way it was for me when I was starting out. What eventually happened is like finally an actual whale added me to their account. Because when I started the game all the way back on NA, I was actually a like pretty new player still and did not really know a whole lot of what I was doing. And interestingly enough, actually I probably should have done the Castoria Berserker card. But interestingly enough, like I was not spending any money on the game at that time. So it took a whale finally adding me for like all of a sudden my support options got a lot better, right? And that's basically what's going to take for everybody's account. They're eventually going to have to find somebody that's like really whaley or really veteran-y in order to actually have like good supports. Now, I mean, even free-to-plays can have good supports, but a lot of the time you're going to be looking for like some sort of like high damage carry at times, and that's where like the whale comes in. Okay, this is a perfect sequence. I got all of the arts buffs at the same time. We popped the Mystic Code and we are going to town. I once saw someone have a Castoria 10-10-1 and it pissed me off. To be fair, right now my Castoria is, at least my Castoria Berserker, is like 7-6-2. So I understand that. Technically, as strong as it is, like the steroid is definitely nice, and you would think like, oh, but don't you want to level that first? Chat? the charge skills actually matter more. They're what determine how much you can do it. This makes your Noble Phantasm hit harder. This makes you Noble Phantasm more. So, like, I get it. And technically, this does too, because this also affects refund. But, like, that's where it's like, yeah, people are just prioritizing the charge skills. So I don't blame them for that. I completely understand that. But yes, 10-10-1 is a rather weird skill. Okay, so I could go into a Mighty Chain here, but I think it's actually just better to pop Proto Merlin's NP. One, this will put Castoria Berserker's NP second, giving it overcharge and giving it a little bit more damage. And two, this will just get more refund than the Mighty Chain probably would have. Charge always goes first. There are some times where you go with damage first, but that's usually if you know like your charge situation is fine due to like having good craft essences and stuff already. On the supports, yeah, it's almost always going to be like if there's something that scales the amount of charge they can give another unit, that is your first priority by far. So that's kind of how stuff like that actually ends up happening. Okay, we are completely unprotected, but he has double crit downs. So, bro is not critting me, guaranteeably. Let's do that correctly. Interesting. I could go with the chain here. Let's do it like that. I'm going to take the effective cards. Just get a little bit more damage. And of course, he hits the unit that's already at their Noble Phantasm. Oh no, what will I do? That's what I'll do. I will prevent you from taking action this turn. And now, because of that, I can at least do this. So now, Castoria Berserker is going to get to her Noble Phantasm. Unfortunately, Castoria should too. Because they should still have one more turn of the charge per turn. She doesn't. She's actually just shy. But this is actually going to be hilarious because I get to show you guys pretty much the makings of the actual Invincible comp. Now, the only problem with this is the actual Invincible comp with a Castoria Berserker works differently. Normally, you would lead with the damage dealer, then the sustain support, and then the damage prevention support. Or you would do the sustain support, then the damage dealer, then this one. But this one usually always goes third, because you want the max stacks. The problem is the solemn defense from this unit will basically prevent the extra stacks of solemn defense from this unit, which is the entire reason why you do the comp. So in this scenario, we're actually going to go like that. We're going to do the sustain support, then the damage prevention support, aka Castoria, then Castoria Berserker last. So this actually helps Castoria Berserker's damage output, but it does not help the number of stacks for OG Castoria. The good news is she's still second there, so that's 2 stacks, plus I actually put the overcharge effect from Castoria Berserker on her instead to get her to her Noble Phantasm. So that's actually 3 stacks. So it's not the best outcome, but it is not the worst outcome either. Wow, and as soon as he gets to explain the mechanic, I'm sorry. I can always explain it again. I also have an entire video talking about the Invincible / Immortal comp. Okay. Gonna put that on the damage dealer there, but realistically, this is a go for broke because I have all of her cards. So I'm just gonna try to maximize kind of both damage and charge. I actually want charge more here because I don't really have any charge skills off cooldown. So we get back to about 84%, 89% due to the 5% per turn that Lady Avalon's giving me. Unfortunately, the AI is not entirely stupid and it doesn't hit me at all. Nobody is vulnerable. We still have these stacks of solemn defense. If you're ever curious how many stacks you have, you can come into this details screen and then tab over here to status, and you will actually be able to see. hey, look, I have one turn of it left, but I have one stack of it left. So she's still protected. Meanwhile, if we go look at Proto Merlin, she has all 4 left. So actually, yeah, I think I got 4 stacks somehow. I don't know how. Maybe she had the so basically Proto Merlin also has a skill that gives overcharge. So that could have been it. Basically, essentially the charge effect off of this resulted in a 4th stack. Honestly though, we're just gonna go for the kill. And bro will die. So worth. Yeah, if you guys are new players, if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask. I've been doing this for years. I've been coaching people, helping people with their accounts, trying to basically educate the player base in general as to how the game actually works. So I'm always happy to answer questions. And there we go. That should be it for this account. Did I do my FP roll? I don't remember if I did it earlier or not. I did, but apparently I can do it again. Appreciate you sharing the info. Yeah, it's all good, man. I think like that's why I got started doing that. When I first started playing the game and becoming a content creator, I mostly just did like whaley content. But I very quickly realized that the knowledgeable people in the community that did exist basically held on to that knowledge and treated it like it was some golden goose that they could milk. Whereas with me, I just started being like, no, I'm just going to tell everybody how it works. I'm not going to like keep this as like a secret. So I just started like making content to kind of shed light on all of the game's mechanics. Did I do my story roll on JP? No, we have not gotten to JP yet. But there we go. That is the new player account done for right now. Is this an A? Yes, this is an A. So JP now. This is the problem with having 3 accounts. I'm not sure which account I'm on anymore at times. I think Explosion is the biggest FGO English knowledge hub there is. I mean, there's definitely like the Atlas Academy guys, but yeah, like the Atlas Academy guys are very knowledgeable because they deal with the data mines for the game. But even over the years, I think a lot of them have changed up, so it's not like the same people. And are they as knowledgeable? I don't know, honestly. I think like there's a lot of smart people that play FGO and know the mechanics. I think some people suck at explaining them. Some people try to act like they're somebody like that, and they actually aren't. And then there's just people where it's like let's say I have an opinion and somebody else that's really knowledgeable has an opinion, and those two opinions can differ. Like, and that happens. So like I've seen that a ton over the years too, where it's like people kind of butt heads because they're like, oh, I don't agree with that take, and it is what it is. But yes, in general, I do think there's a lot of knowledge between like Trubs, me, Avalon, like, and Bob. We pretty much between those 4 people either know everything or can find it out extremely fast. So, like, it definitely has resulted in a good confluence of, like, information, especially for, like, anybody that wants to know. There are very few total absolutes on FGO. One of them is Jekyll's ass. You know, you say that, like, I can say that, but there's always going to be somebody that's going to be like, well, I just saw Jekyll, like handle this CQ or something like that. And I'll be like, you know, you're not wrong, but also at the same time, it's like, we can, like, the way the game works, we can basically make like anybody clear certain things, and it becomes less of an impressive feat. Chat, I will say this to the people that have granted your Oberons and have like this like double meta bond set up. I salute you. But also, you are getting like so much FP right now. So it is what it is. We are currently in Prague on double X here. I'm just gonna do my 3 runs here, and then we will start talking about the JP buffs that just happened, and then probably go to the Famitsu article after that. And again, for anyone that missed it earlier, they did announce that the JP side of things is going to be getting a live stream date for the oh no, I almost did it. That's why like I'm like stumbling over my words as I was thinking about the order of operations here, and I went like, no, don't touch Nocnaria, don't do the thing that you did twice yesterday. So like they just revealed that that JP does have a live stream date for summer coming up. And that is like the big thing that a lot of people have been looking forward to. So we'll finally know. Sorry, I'm still going back and forth here. I'm trying like desperately not to mess this up. Don't brick. Yeah, I know. This comp is really good for her damage output, but it is so tedious because if I press the wrong skill at the wrong time, the entire like run gets bricked, and then there goes 3 command seals. Funny thing is, an artist I follow drew the perfect picture of that Oberon basically dropping a giant bag of FP on Ritsuka. It's always great. Crossout, thank you for the follow, and Scope, thank you for the follow as well. Okay. Yeah, if you guys ever want to know how any of the mechanics work, feel free to ask. I might not be able to like talk about the nitty gritty off the top of my head, but odds are I've made a video on it, and I can either direct you to the video or I can tell you the basic fundamentals of it, the TLDR that you need to know. It's safer if I just use literally everybody's skills on the front line here and then swap. We will learn what classes and possibly teasers for the second banner. Yeah, it depends. Sometimes they'll give us the full second banner, other times they don't. I think of late they've been giving us the full second banner, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Like, it just kind of depends. How good would Bazette here be here, by the way? As far as you know, like just about everything's neutral here. So it is what it is. If you want to like use her, you probably would be fine. I think the only issue is that sometimes Olga does some like weird stuff like skill seal and MP seal if you let her hang around. Though Bazette does have debuff immunity at least, so at least for 1 turn, if I remember correctly. I wanted to ask about Zerker Castoria. I got her NP1 before the banner was gone, but I wanted to ask if I have to get NP2 on her rerun or if NP1 will suffice. NP1 is going to suffice for a lot of stuff, but you will see some of the like higher end game content. You might get like kind of like kept out of it in that regard. Like not in the sense of like you can't do it, but like your NP1 alone will not be strong enough. It's not the end of the world. You can still utilize her effectively in situations like that, but it may not be like the most efficient clear, if that makes any sense. So, like, do you have to have NP2? No. Is it good to? Yes. Yes, it is. But yeah, it's like I struggle to like tell people that they have to do something because in general, the game is not so hard that like you can't get the job done. And usually when we're talking about like higher NP levels, it's usually in reference to like farming efficiency in this game. And realistically speaking, I actually think that a lot of this just kind of actually I should have put Oberon's NP. A lot of this just kind of comes down to what your end game philosophy is. a lot of people, so like to understand the end game basically right now of FGO, there are level 90 nodes, which were the original end game. There's level 90 plus nodes, which are kind of like the newer end game. But now there's 90 plus plus nodes. And so technically, you'll see a lot of people bounce between 90 plus and 90 plus plus. And a lot of what will determine what they do is dependent on whether or not they can clear the plus plus efficiently, like quickly, easily, that sort of stuff with the maximal CEs. Basically, the game is balanced around, and the way you understand this is that like you have 6 slots in your party, right? So essentially, the concept of a 6-slot run means taking like 6 event CEs. So you're taking the maximum like drop efficiency that you can for any given situation. So usually the game is balanced around a 6-slot run of the 90 plus being equal to a 5-slot run of the 90 plus plus, or at least like very close if they're not equal. So the idea behind this is that you would take like your 6th slot on the 90 plus plus would be like a damage CE if it's available. So something that gives you like damage bonus during the event and stuff. And that's where a lot of that like kind of comes down to. So roughly speaking, in terms of raw efficiency, if these two things are true, these two end game nodes are actually the same efficiency. The problem exists when you start turning this 5-slot into a 6-slot. There are some people out there and some units that are capable of doing it when they are upgraded to the like nth degree. So like, for instance, Castoria Berserker, if you have an NP5 of her at like 120, yeah, she might be able to be capable of something like that. But odds are like someone like you maybe rolling for NP1 or NP2 is not going to be able to do that. And the thing to understand about this is, while yes, that is technically more efficient if you can manage to 6-slot the plus plus, most people can't pull it off. And the efficiency added is not like huge. It is some, but usually the issue that we notice, especially on things like lotto events where you do a lot of farming, is that you'll notice that a lot of the times in order to 6-slot a 90 plus plus, the composition, the party comp that you have to use ends up becoming very slow. Like, it's not inefficient in terms of like the materials that it's getting. It is time inefficient, or it is tedious and annoying for the player to pull off, as opposed to like somebody just like turning off their brain in a 90 plus 6-slot run where they just go like, I press all the buttons turn 1, and then they just kill. Like, so there is some interesting stuff like that, and it really just depends on like your mentality as a player. Some people will really prefer time efficiency. Some people will really prefer drop efficiency. To me, drop efficiency is always kind of key, but as long as it's not coming at the expense of like your sanity. Out of curiosity, you know when NA gets the first Olga quest? Someone was asking me that last night. I actually don't remember. Like we did them on JP a long time ago. So I think it's, yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's like coming up here soon-ish. But I do not know the exact time. Oh, this is a 180 guy. Okay. There are a few super servants that can just outright do it regardless. It kind of depends on the node still usually, but yes, like there are. So I was at my max stack there, and I did not want to lose stuff. There's so much crap being given out right now in JP. That is the problem I am currently having. Chat, I did pick my craft essences. So here you guys go. You guys can see. My 2 extra craft essence picks were these 2. This was the actual extra 2. This was the actual extra 1. This was Berserker. This was Assassin. This was Caster. This was Rider. This was obviously Lancer. This was Archer. And this was Saber. But I realized, like, oh, I'm not sure, like, how much time we have left to pick those, so I went in and I just picked them. I need that Lancer C. Yo, bro, same. Let me see if there's anything I can advance here on the grand score. I've kind of been slow walking this, but it's because there's been so much stuff that I've had to do on stream. So that's kind of why. That was at least enough for one more. Let's see here. I need 140 times 1, 2, 3, 4. And 80. Oh. Well, there's a little bit of a preview chat. Oh, what? It actually closed that. Wild. So basically, what did I say? There's 4 times 140 plus 80. So 680 is how much I need. Did I just do that head math right, chat? No, I didn't do that right. 640? Yeah. I think like in my head, I did 4 times 100 and then I did 5 times 40 for some reason. I don't know why I did. Storm nodes back to 40 AP suffering. Yeah, I mean, I'll get this done. This is just a like, holy crap, I've had so much I've had to do, right? Like chat, if you guys have been paying attention to the YouTube, we have released an average of 2 videos a day this week. An average. We had a 3 video day and a 1 video day. And every other day was 2. So like, I think today was finally a 1 video day again. But like, yeah, it was like this week we've just had a ton. And like, if you see Okayist, pat on the back, thank him for his hard work. Because like, yeah, it's just like, holy crap. Like, there's too many videos. And that's chat. I didn't make a video about the extra grand system. I was late to the punch, and we had 3 other videos to make that day. So I just went like, fuck it, I'm not making a video on that. Quick Riders and Grandul will probably just be double Taigong Wang. That's gonna be funny. I will literally laugh seeing that sort of thing. Okay, it's just living inside Cad's basement. Pepe laugh. No, it just it is what it is. I had to apologize to him as well because it's just, oof, dude. Just beat 4 fights to unlock Grand Beast. 120 mash was insane for that last fight. Yeah, I'm actually like dreading it because I did the extra 1. So like we've completed our it was basically Buntoria for me was the Grand Ruler. And she's complete. But the final fight for her, like, I don't know if chat gaslit me into like not telling me things about it, or like I got bad RNG, or that fight just legitimately is that rough. That was kind of a tough one to feel out because Olga's mechanics, if you let her stick around, were just really, really nasty with like the buff block, the skill seal, the NP seal, the healing down. Like she was just constantly just debilitating you. You don't need to do it if you unlock extra 1. You also unlocked extra 2. Oh, really? So there's not a second one. Okay. Sweet. Feels good, man. Good job on them. Lots of stuff coming out, and I appreciate it. Yeah, like it's so rough. I think honestly the hardest thing for me is that the usual cycle for FGO goes, hey, 4 a.m. rolls around and there is news. And like people pump the content out within the next like 2 hours. Okay. But for me, I wake up, I go to work, I come home, I stream and record, I then hand it off to the editor for editing. and then it is ready for me the next day to post by about like the early afternoon. So the problem for me is quite literally that like from the time news breaks, I don't get you guys a video until like the next afternoon. And that sucks. I hate that. I wish I could get you guys this stuff faster, but unfortunately I have a job. I know that sounds wild to say, but unfortunately I have a job. So like that's what prevents it. So to those of you guys that still support on YouTube on the regular, thank you. I appreciate you. I really do. Because like I think that's sadly one of the like downsides of the FGO community. People don't seem to care what the news source is. They just want the news and they want it now. And like they don't care about the quality or the authenticity of it. They will always go for the first source and then they will not check anything else. And that is sad. I wish the community was better about that. I wish the community did a better job of supporting like more of its content creators and not just the people that are first. But there is nothing I can do about that. Like I cannot change the way that like my content pipeline works because it is just a factor of like me and my time. So it is what it is. But again, I like I said, I'm happy that people actually still do support because it means the world to me in that regard. Final exam really puts to shine the defenses of the score. I did Grand Lalter. There was still a point in that fight where I'm not entirely sure what happened. Everybody else died except Bunny. Bunny did have the triple invincible stack. And Olga should have killed her, but Olga did not continue to attack. Like, Olga did the NP, killed the other 2 units, and Olga just stopped. And I'm not sure why. Like, she had not used a normal attack yet. She should have at least had 2 more attacks, and she didn't. And that actually, like, is the entire reason that we were able to get the fight done. But, like, it's wild a little bit. I prefer your videos because you actually explain things. Yeah, I think, like, to one degree, I'm trying to, like, make the video shorter for you guys. But to another degree, like, I also don't want to, like, cut out valuable information, right? So I'm trying to get the video length down to, like, somewhere in the, like, 10 to 15 minute range. But, like, for instance, we did the Olga analysis the other day. Chat, that video couldn't be faster than, like, 30 minutes. It couldn't be. Why? Because reviewing Olga and her kit is the equivalent of reviewing 2 units side by side. So that one was just rough. Like, no amount of trying to speed it up was going to make it better. Do you plan on making guides for the 4 Olga fights when they come to an A? If so, you might want to mention the teapots. I just got insane value with that many teams. Yeah, you do. I don't know. Like, that's definitely on the like consideration list. I probably need to sit out with Avalon because Avalon's really good at, like, it's not that, like, I can't figure out a comp. Avalon's really good at figuring out a breadth of comps at the same time, if that makes sense. So, like, almost like the rules of engagement for a fight, where it's like, hey, these are the things that you guys need. And, like, that's where, like, I love sitting down with him and talking shop on that stuff. Because, like, I'll sit there, like, he'll come up with some stuff, and then I'll be like, no, that's not right. Or, like, hey, we need to add this. Or, like, hey, let's adjust this. And, like, we'll sit there and we'll back and forth on it. Because I'll keep coming up with crazy ideas, and Avalon will either go with it or shoot me down. Which just is what it is. Like, that comes from my years of, like, lotto comp crafting. I consider factors that a lot of other people don't consider. So it's good. I think like it works in that regard. Olga's an entire Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes worth of text. You're not wrong. Like there, and that's why I said like there's a point where like there's too much going on. What's the best ignore invuln CE in the JP shop? I'm on LB7. I don't have ignore invuln C other than the Kiritsugu one. Oh right, I can't click the screen. we're not on the alt account. So the best one that you can buy in the shop, you might not like the answer, but it is the best one. Okay, so you can come down in here into the remember essences, but if you have the rare prisms, sorry, hold on, I gotta find it. Probably near the bottom. Did I pass it, chat? I had to have passed it. It's in the CE shop, not here. Oh, did they move it? Did they actually move it over? That's interesting. Okay, so let's find it. Of course, it's at the very bottom. This one. Sweet Crystal. This is all attack scaling. So at MLB, this will go up to 2000 attack if you level it all the way. It is invuln pierce, and at MLB, 50% starting charge. Arguably, that is the best. That gives you the best of both worlds. You get starting charge and invuln pierce with all attack scaling. If you want something that's more damage dealing, that starts to get a little bit hairier. Let me look through here and see. There is Decapitating Bunny here. This one is quick up. Okay, but it's only, I think it's like 10 or 12% at MLB, but it's also all attack scaling. I don't think that one's, it's not. Yeah. I don't think this one is. I'm thinking of a different one. Is Foxy Lady one? Nope. You'd have to forgive me because a lot of these are kind of not the best C's to pick up. Am I thinking of this one? That's sure hit. Okay. I don't think there's another one. Do we have the we have the chainsaw one. We don't have the handcuffs one. Yeah, I don't know if there is. Valentine's isn't in yet. The Nezha one just a little bit below. My blind chat? Minosi Nezha. Nezha from Oniland. It's blue-ish. This one? No. Yeah, that's from Oku. Oh. Wait, no. Chat, which one are you talking about? And why do I feel like I'm getting gaslit? That one? I linked it just to be safe. Oh, it is Frozen Warbear. Okay. I was like, wait, yeah, I think it is this one. And then I clicked on it. I only saw the Buster symbol. So yeah, forgive me, Chad. I cannot read Japanese. But yes, this one is from the Oniland event. It was one of the welfare Cs given out back then. It split stats, so I don't know if this is that good. But it is Buster Up and in Vuln Pierce at least. But yeah, there are usually better ones that are out there that you'll get like as a welfare or from rolling. But I hope that helps. Like I said, personally for me, I usually go Sweet Crystal because the pairing up of effects is usually not worth the lost like charge. And so it would have to be like only if the unit had like more capable like refund and stuff. Or charge capability. Chat, let's do my daily story pull here. So we don't miss that. Because I almost missed that yesterday. Oh, let's not do that. This account's already full enough. Servant? Nothing? Let's go. The new player account would like that roll. Honey Lake for Yang is great too. Dude, if they ever like add Honey Lake to a shop, that's gonna be hilarious, man. I have to check the upcoming event list. I have until November to save my Saint Crits for Kenshin. Yeah, probably. Did I already do my yearly summer predictions? I did. I did them back in like February. Which we'll see. Like so far of the 3 that are revealed, I think 2 I have in high and 1 I had in like it's possible. So like technically I've called them all. Why is the background red? Welcome to Grand Duel. Oh, let's not touch that yet. Let's do... I gotta refresh. We bully Olga into coming home the event. Yes. We were getting a Tamamo buff. today, yes. Okay, so chat. I kind of want to see maximum chaos if they don't buff Tamamo, because I want to see how the Tamamo fans react when there's 2 SSR caster buffs and neither go to Tamamo. Like there's an evil part of me that kind of wants to see that. No, I know. But it's because everyone keeps like asking for it. That's kind of why like I kind of want to see the meltdown now. But like, don't get me wrong, I understand. And like if Tamamo gets a buff, I hope it's not like power creep, but I hope it's something that's like good for her. I hope it's like, hey, this actually expands her usefulness and doesn't like just completely like break open the game again. Oh my god. What? Okay, we have new and old. One of these didn't load when I was opening it. Okay. I still low key hate these blurbs because they don't have anything to do with the servant itself. See, chat. Actual actionable kill chances. This is why you don't pay attention to what fandom says sometimes. But like, it is what it is. I'll actually put that first so that we touch on that. Okay. Let me chat real quick here. Let me just double check, see how recording's going. I want to see if it's like choppy at all. It looks like it's kind of getting choppy. It feels like it's kind of getting choppy. Still feels better than it did before, but like it's not as bad, but it's like it's still kind of noticeable. Like if I start doing this, chat can definitely see that like it's like screen tearing some. Looks good today. I mean, like it's nice-ish. But yeah, like see how it's like it can't handle the scrolling that's happening here? Like as it just like begins to just eat itself. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like it can't handle the frames. But I think we'll probably ask OKS to handle this one as well. I'm gonna have to like sit down with this weekend and try to like figure out what the heck is going on with my recordings, dude. Okay. Thumbs up. Thank you, Ocast. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening, but it is. I think it's I bet it's like a friggin' Windows update problem as well. There's probably some stupid ass process running in the background eating a lot of my crap. But we'll see. Okay. Hey guys, my name's Kadroth, and I'm here to talk to you guys about day 5 of the Servant Strengthening quest from JP's anniversary here. Now, interestingly enough, we get both a Jack and Sanson buff for this one. This is basically our Assassin Day. Obviously, I think a lot of people probably expected Sanson, but I think the Jack one was a little bit more up in the air. I think, to a degree, Jack was who a lot of people hoped would get it. But there were definitely a lot of options. There were definitely even like the AoE assassins that it could have been. So certainly an interesting choice in that regard. We did, again, already go over the Mordred and Matahari buffs, the Parvati and Asterios buffs, and the Robin Hood and Ishtar buff from day 2, as well as the Muramasa and Medea buff from day 1. So we've pretty much gone over all of these. Most of these buffs are very strong so far, so it's definitely a good thing to see. And we're actually going to start out right off the rip with Sanson here first. So basically, Sanson has instant kill chance on his NP. He's always been somebody that at least like kind of specialized as an executioner in taking out like human enemies and stuff like that. And you can basically see that's actually the skill that they chose to upgrade here. So they took his third skill, that was an increase in damage against human enemies by 60%. This is definitely a nice power mod. It is a 3-turn duration. The problem is, what counts as a human enemy is not the same as what counts as an enemy with the man attribute. Man attribute is so much more prolific. It is definitely something that you'll see all the time. Whereas human, unfortunately, usually just comes into play against fodder enemies. So things like soldiers and like either Roman or French soldiers and like various other human type enemies, like say from maybe Shinjuku and stuff like that. So you don't actually have a whole lot of potential uses for this. And usually when they are, they're not a high damage like enemy, like somebody that you're going to need to do a whole bunch against. So they come in and they buff this skill and they actually say, hey, we're going to allow this to increase his own instant kill success rate for 3 turns. And the reason that that is significant is because this adds a 150% modifier to his stuff, in addition to what he already has in his NP. This is also going to increase his own instant kill success rate further against human enemies for 3 turns by an additional 150% rate. And to understand that, basically on screen now, you have the calculations that Avalon has done for us. You guys can see, depending on the enemy's native latent death rate, you can determine what the actual kill chance is now, assuming they are either human or not human. And there's definitely things you can do to expand this a little bit more if you started using additional supports to increase death chance. But naturally, you can see with basically an 84% death rate on a human enemy, Sanson can become a guaranteed instant kill against them. This will not apply to things like servants or higher rarity things. Do understand that. But that's where, like, again, if you have a decent instant death rate naturally on the enemy, his instant death modifiers here can practically guarantee it. So that's a decent change. Instant death, a lot of the times in FGO, can be a little bit of a meme. But if you can manage to figure out that a enemy is actually guaranteeably instant killable, it becomes a very, very powerful asset for you. On top of this, again, he still keeps the 60% modifier versus human enemies, but now he gets as well an increase to his own NP damage for 3 turns of 30%. So this is something that can be boosted with Oberon. It's definitely a nice thing just by itself, regardless. And then they also add for him something that Sanson never really had before, and that is charge. So Sanson gets a guaranteed 20% charge. You don't even have to level the skill up to get this effect, but let's be honest, if you're going to level any skill on Sanson at this point, it's probably this one. So either way, this is a really, really nice thing for them to give him. It's definitely an interesting buff. I think some people would have maybe liked to have seen the niche expand to like man enemies. I personally would have liked to see that, as it would have at least allowed him to become maybe the 2-star version of Okada Izo, who is already somebody that's really, really effective as a 3-star for that exact reason. Whereas with Sanson's case, the fact that he was restricted against human type enemies has definitely been a little bit more of a problem with that skill. And certainly, even with his Noble Phantasms, this at least will now be able to hit harder, and it's definitely a good change in that regard too. So let me know what you guys think about the Sanson buff. But just kind of going through here, here is his actual damage numbers, both before and after the buff. He's a low star unit, so we're guaranteed NP5 of him, especially since he's permanent. So that's really all we did the number calculations on. But you guys can see, these are neutral numbers, so not effective. This is not against like a rider or something like that. This is just a neutral enemy type. But you can see, Sanson's normal damage before was about 24k. In his evil niche, it was about 38k. In his human niche, again, 38k. But if both, about 52k. Now, post buff, his damage number against normal type enemies did spike by about 7k there. You can see the evil niche as well, about 7k. Same thing with human, and pretty much exact same deal there, just transferring on up with both niches in play, another 7k. So essentially, this is just going to add 7k raw damage, but how much would it do in an actual composition? So we basically have on screen for you guys the best composition that Sanson can pull off, which is, again, because now he has a 20% charge skill, you could manage to 3-turn with him. Obviously, most people are not going to do that, but it's an interesting thing nonetheless. So you can see we could work him with a Koyanskaya and double Oberon, level 100k scope, and maxed out Neo Plug. This is kind of a best possible scenario for Sanson's damage, though these are neutral numbers. And with this, you can see at NP5 there, by wave 3, he'd actually do a very respectable 302,000. The big problem would be wave 1 and wave 2, where the damage numbers would just be utterly atrocious. So particularly wave 1 there, good luck. That's definitely not a very, very strong thing. If you have the evil niche in play, these numbers start to get a little bit better. Same thing, obviously, with human, though they are a little bit less for wave 1 and a lot more for wave 2, should that be the case. But you can see the definite spike up, as even just in the human niche now, he would have almost 100k extra there over his normal damage. And then man attribute basically conferring some other interesting stuff there from basically Koyan providing that for him. So at least he does, given the fact that he is Buster, get to kind of double dip there with Koyan. It's definitely a nice thing. And you can see, if you can manage to get like all of the niche combinations in effect, Sanson could actually start doing some pretty darn insane damage. So watch out for maybe a scenario where it's both evil, human, and man attribute at the same time, and you might see some pretty just disgusting damage. In terms of one-shot damage, that's what the numbers down here below are. It's basically his one-turn damage with a Black Grail. You can see the numbers just immediately, drastically improving as we kind of move on down the list, with human niche being about 574k one-shot damage. That is not bad, and this is using a double Koyanskaya here, so we are at least kind of getting, again, that double man attribute there to be in here. And you can see the combinations of all three would actually result in about 732k neutral damage. So to me personally, this just makes Sanson a lot more viable, but there's definitely some still concerns about like kind of actually being able to use him in practicality, particularly in more of a like either multiple damage dealer setup or an actual 3-turn. I don't think most people would use him in that regard, but let me know your thoughts on that. He's definitely an interesting unit, and this is definitely an interesting buff for him. So let me know what you think he should have gotten if you don't like this buff. Next up here, we have Jack the Ripper. Now, Jack has been maligned for quite a while, mostly due to the existence of units like Kama, who have recently gotten a buff, and the fact that Jack, when she did get an NP interlude, actually only got half an interlude. So the way to understand this is that normally when a unit gets an NP interlude, the NP2 percentile becomes the NP1 percentile, and the NP5 percentile becomes the NP2. So if that were the case when Jack got an NP interlude, she should have had 1600% scaling on her NP. Unfortunately, it seems like they feared Jack, and so Jack only got 1400. So she basically, like in a similar scenario to basically Vlad Berserker, she only got half an interlude. For me personally, I was hoping that that would be what they would address and that they would fix that. It seemed to me to make the most sense would be to give her yet another one that actually just fixes this and gives her the full NP interlude, because that is one of the major things that holds her back. I don't think anybody has ever really disputed the fact that Jack actually has a very good niche being anti-female. It's not super effective. It is a power mod, but that does help out at least on the back end where cards after the NP would still have this effect for the duration of the turn, allowing you to get a little bit more damage against a female enemy. But they basically took Jack's kind of primary skill, which is her first skill, her quick up of 1 turn and her evasion of 1 turn. Now, this is both her survivability and her steroid. And the 50% quick up is definitely nice. It's really good for star generation. It's really good for damage output. But the issue that we have with this is that it is just that single turn. So if the stars don't align for Jack, pun intended, I guess, you're maybe not going to necessarily get some good damage out of her. So now they've come back in and they actually made the change that I've been asking for them to make for years to this skill. And that's that they made the quick up a 3-turn duration. This just helps out her consistency immensely. It gives her what she needs to continue to pop off. They also gave her NP damage of 20% for 3 turns, which is an odd, like, sort of handout here for a unit that they clearly feared the damage on in the past and didn't want to make too powerful. And now they've ignored her for too long, and they actually have to give her a solid damage buff here of 20% NP damage up for 3 turns. So again, as Jack continues to run through an NP, that is going to continue to give you more firepower. And yeah, that's something that an Oberon could definitely double up on and get some good damage out of. It's also going to grant herself evasion for 1 turn as it had before, but now it's going to also charge her NP gauge by 30%. This one was surprising to me. I did not think they would give Jack charge. I figured they'd probably leave her stranded in that regard because, again, the really nice niche that she has and sort of comma being that competition there having charge. But at this point, we can look across pretty much all of our single target assassins, and almost all of them have charge to some degree. So I think this was kind of overdue, and we're at a point in the game basically now where if you have charge, you're good, but if you don't have charge, you're kind of left behind. So I know some people would have maybe preferred for them not to give her charge, but I think this is a good change overall. This will make her more usable, and that 30% will combine very nicely with something like a mana loading append. So this is definitely a good change for Jack, and it's definitely a huge upgrade for her. So what is this upgrade going to do in terms of Jack's refund? So it's not going to change a whole lot for you in general. Remember, you do have the same effects, basically. Naturally, with more damage output, you can maybe hit overkill a little bit easier. But the good thing for her is instead going to be more about the fact that she has the 3-turn duration on things, allowing her to continue to do a, like Noble Phantasm and keep getting back to another one and trying to fire it off again and again. So I really, really, really like that change for Jack in this regard. Like I said, it's just going to help out the consistency, but you guys can see the refund numbers on the screen. She is a single target. She doesn't have a whole lot of hits on the NP, so you don't have to expect that she's going to necessarily start doing some crazy numbers here. Single target quick units usually are in the 10 to 20% refund range. Taking a look at an actual composition for Jack, though, we can make her 3-turn. This would require a Summer Scotty and double Oberon. You could probably sneak in an original Scotty instead of a Summer Scotty here. But the thing you'll denote is that basically we are starting her out with a 50% CE, her mana loading append, and then popping her skill turn 1 to basically bring her up to full. Obviously, you'd have the quick up from Scotty, but you're not going to have anything else. She's going to fire off the Noble Phantasm, get back to 11%, and they're going to use basically the Summer Scotty's 50% charge. It's going to bring you up to 60. You're going to rotate her out for the other Oberon, pop both Oberons for skills. That should bring you up to full again. Fire off another Noble Phantasm, and then on the third wave, both Oberons basically 50% charges, and that should be enough. Plus, you can throw in their third skill at that point to get the most damage output. But that would be what a kind of forced 3-turn loop with Jack would be like. It's not going to be something like a Black Grail loop or anything like that, but you might be able to make something like that work if you do manage to hinge on Jack's cards, though that'll be a little bit more of an RNG strategy for that. Taking a look at Jack's raw damage numbers, this is no supports, this is still neutral. You guys can see this is basically tantamount to a nice little like 9k bump up against normal enemies, and pretty much the exact same deal in her female niche. So it is a sizable buff considering that is just raw damage, and considering this isn't an NP interlude. So it's definitely another nice change for her in that regard. Taking a look, this is her old damage numbers in a proper composition. So this is now including things like the craft essence, the mystic code, the support units being there. And you can see with the old numbers, she needed basically 2 out of 4 overkill hits in order to be able to loop with double Scotty Oberon and a K-scope. Definitely not the best scenario there, but basically you're able to get to about 264k by wave 3, but that is probably reserving the first skill until wave 3 in order to kind of get that maximal damage value. So that's why you don't see the damage being too high in the earlier waves. Same thing if it's female, you're going to get about 314k, and within P2 those numbers get bumped up again. In terms of one-shot damage, her number was about 559k out of niche, and then 636k in niche, but still neutral. Now with the new numbers, basically, you guys can see her numbers are shored up a lot better. Wave 1's still going to be pretty anemic if it's not against a female. But otherwise, against females, or even by wave 2 already, you can see just the sheer damage increase that she's getting off of this. And then same deal with her one-shot damage. You're getting almost an immediate upgrade where compared to her old numbers, her new raw number is almost as good as her anti-female niche was before, and now you still have the female niche actually on top of that. So again, I really do like this buff for Jack. I think this makes her more usable. I think this gives her more damage to help her compete, and it's definitely going to help out. But we'll have to keep an eye out and see in the future, does she get that NP interlude fix, something that she probably kind of desperately needs at this point. So let me know what you guys think about the buff. Let me know what you would like to see for Jack in the future. And I'm curious how you think the overall progress of the buffs are going so far. Do you like what Lasingle's doing here? Do you like the units that they're picking? Or would you maybe have rather them made some other choices on certain days so far? Also, who do you think we're going to be getting for the caster ones coming up here? I'll be really, really curious to hear you guys' thoughts. And I will see you guys for the next video. Thank y'all. Yeah. Her cutting refund's pretty good, but her MP not so much. Yeah, and to be fair, like that is the case with a lot of them. If you actually go look at like Kama's refund off the back of her NP, it's also kind of hot garbage. The reason you don't notice it is because Kama has a 50% charge skill, and sometimes you do just card with Kama. So that is what it is. Like and follow for shizzle my dizzle. What are you making me say? How does this put Jack versus Kama now? Oh, I actually didn't show that. So let's... okay, so you might have to splice this in. That's my bad. I forgot about that. So here you guys can see Kama's numbers. They're still going to be a little bit higher than Jack's. She's definitely going to be a lot more usable, but this does pull Jack closer in. And I think maybe with that NP interlude in the future, you can see Jack actually being competition here. But yes, I think both one-shot numbers and, again, like in an actual composition, Kama not only just has kind of the better setup, but also just the better damage outright. Same deal. One of the reasons that we saw the insane Kama buff was probably due to Melt. Melt being an alter ego, putting this much pressure on all of the single target cavalry units is not a good thing, in my opinion. I know people like Melt to be really strong, but yeah, we've definitely got some balance issues now. As you guys can see, Melt's damage is also just pretty crack, both in one-turn damage and in terms of actually three-turning with her. So you can definitely see why they feel the need to buff these single target assassins. Jack definitely needed it. Yeah. Flip it and use it in the video. I mean, I'm sure O'Case can splice it up, but usually I don't want to do that to him. Okay. Sorry, I'm just opening up a tab for my boy Fox. Okay. Oh, what is he doing? I think he's doing the memorial quests. Oh no, he's working through LB7. Oh no, it's not LB7. Never mind. I know what that is. That's spoiler. Okay. I need to get Scotty Ruler. Hey, Scotty Ruler's definitely a really, really nice one. And that's why, like, a lot of people, I think they overlook the quick supports, but the quick supports are really nice for basically, like, buffing, obviously, quick units. And if you don't have them, you're going to have a rough time getting good performance out of quick units compared to, like, oh, I have art supports, I have buster supports, and God, those units are so good. Like, this is why there is some inherent, like, negative bias towards quick units in the community, is people just don't pick up the quick supports and then call the quick units trash. And then you go like, well, of course they are if you're not supporting them properly. Like it'd be the same thing as me taking like double X into a node and then like not taking art supports and then being like double X's damage is so bad. Like, of course it is. I've done that to myself, right? How would I rate the buff so far? I probably have a controversial opinion on that. I give them like a 7 out of 10. Some people are like ecstatic with some of these buffs. I think like some of these buffs are not to who I would have picked, and the buff that they have given are either absurdly strong or not enough. So they're getting kind of like a C from me right now. Like they're all over the place with it. There's some where I'm like, man, that's a really good buff. And then there's others where I'm like, God, they should have gone stronger here. So. Oh. Where's extreme looping support, quick and in P gain? I don't know that you necessarily need like quick and in P gain, but I'm gonna say that like quick for its third support often has to steal from another like card type, or it has to take like one of the like quote unquote neutral supports, so somebody that's like non-card aspected, so like Waver, Reigns, Nero Bride, right? Like, and that's not a bad thing, like, because those units are available for everyone to use, but it is something that I've noticed is kind of a deficiency of quick. Whereas like Buster and Arts, they can stay entirely in their system if they really want to. Quick, in order for it to stay entirely in its system, usually has to just take another damage dealer, which is kind of weird. Or you take triple quick support, but Triple Scotty oftentimes just doesn't have the same damage that like double Scotty Oberon does. Though to be fair, I think that's true of like a lot of things in like the arts category as well. So it's a weird issue to me. Olga being the new over-the-top Buster support. I don't really think she's over-the-top Buster support. Like, her supportive qualities are good, but they're not like meta, is what I would say. They can certainly be useful in situations, though. There, chat. I'm not gonna blind you. All right. I have to preface this, guys. There will be spoilers. So you will see them marked on the screen. Okay. Where it says this little thing down here. I will read that out loud. But you do need to understand something. The makeup of this like interview so far, I'm only about halfway through Trubs' VOD. I literally have to do the other half, so you're not getting all of it tonight. But the makeup so far, chat, is no spoiler, OC3 spoiler, no spoiler, OC3 spoiler, OC4 spoiler, and that's where I'm at. So there are 2 segments here that are not spoilery for NA people. I'm letting you guys make that choice. So understand there will be spoilers if you watch certain points of the video. Was OC3 the ruler focus one? No, that's OC4. Castoria can get a buff. I don't. No, they shouldn't buff Castoria. Holy crap! If you buff Castoria, it's actually stupid. I think like the only change that I would be like, hey, this would kind of be nice, is if they made Solemn Defense not unique, and that even in and of itself is strong, and they probably should not do it. So spoiler warning. What I'm trying to tell you guys right now, right off the bat, I am spoiler warning you now, because you are going to hear them talk about story. That is just the way it is. I can't skip it this time, because if I skip it, we'll skip literally like 90% of the interview. Okay? So do you guys understand that? I am giving you guys the choice to leave now or hold your peace, because I will read that we're at the spoiler segment, but when we get to that final Ordeal Call 4 segment, it's not ending. It's all spoilers. So. Okay, we're going to begin. So this is the start of the Nasu and Takuchi interview. They do an interview every single year with Famitsu. And we already went over the Mr. 2 interview. That was very enlightening. We found out, for instance, that FGO will have an 11th year, and that it is, the devs have already planned up through 11th anniversary. So we'll have to see. But Nasu and Takuchi are going to be a little bit different. This is the game's lead writer and sort of creative genius, as well as the game's lead artist and the creative genius on that side. So in that regard, they always have some very interesting tidbits for people to know. There are going to be a lot of spoilers in this interview. I do have them appropriately marked, but I am warning everybody on the YouTube side of things that if you continue through this article, a lot of it will be spoiler. There will be story discussions. I will be going over those these time because so much of the interview will deal with that. So you have been warned. There are spoilers for both Ordeal Call 3 and Ordeal Call 4 so far. Now, again, this is a very, very interesting interview because we get to hear things direct from the horse's mouth. This is Nasu and him discussing basically FGO and how things have been, both from a game design standpoint as well as a story standpoint, and maybe even a peek at the future. But like I said, this is just going to be the first half for right now. We will continue on with the other half when I can get it transcribed. So to begin with, the interviewer starts by asking them, and one other tidbit. This is the longest interview I have ever seen Nasu or Takuchi give. And it's not even close. So keep in mind, that's why this takes so long. Okay, so to begin with, the interviewer starts, I didn't even spell it right, I spelled inviewer, starts by asking them how they feel now that they're in the 10th year. Nasu states that the feeling is that it's been getting quite long, but he's happy that they've been able to get to the 10th anniversary. And he kind of says a little bit more here. He says, like, there's some upsides, some downsides, things were tough. But I felt like this was kind of just cutting to the point of what he's trying to say. They didn't have a clear vision, though, for how long they could continue this overall. That is to say, like, FGO proper, they weren't sure how long it was going to go on and like what the overall like effect of the game could be, both due to like the factors of their own workload as well as like the time it takes them to get things done, on top of like, does the game remain popular? Do the people keep playing it? That sort of stuff. Okay, they say basically it wasn't a perfect pace, but it was 10 years straight of running and trying to meet the expectations of the user base. So what they're trying to say here is that, like, essentially they had some really rough spots, but that the entire time it felt like it was just a slog. It was a marathon. They were continuing to keep going, trying to meet the expectations of the user base. Takuchi does add at that point that the reason that they were able to continue this long is because the community actually put their trust in them and supported them. He feels that that trust and support, and he's proud of it, basically. So it's like he understands that the community trusts him and that they continue to support him, and that's what gives FGO life beyond what most other games would be capable of. And that's something that he's proud of because he knows that that's due to their hard work and their success. The interviewer then asks if they've been busier than ever before as they're approaching the final chapter. And I think it was Nasu here that said this, that basically they've been having to work more than ever before for both art and writing. So in other words, you guys kind of know Nasu over the years. Nasu is a perfectionist. Nasu is a control freak a little bit. And he is absolutely somebody that wants the utmost quality in all of his stuff. So Nasu keeps raising the bar in effect and keeps like pushing everything harder. And that happens on both the writing side that he's in charge of, as well as Takuchi being in charge of the art side, trying to match his freak in effect. So they are trying to kind of like keep going more and more and more and more. So that's why they're doing everything even more. Plus, again, I think there's something where it's like they know this is the final chapter. This means a lot. They're trying to wrap up these first two arcs of the story here. Takuchi basically adds that they've been trying to maneuver to the final chapter, and that both game-wise and in real life wise, they want to hype up the final chapter to the utmost. It's super important to them. This is something like here in this early part that they kind of keep mentioning is like, hey, the final chapter is a big deal and we are like trying to fire on all cylinders. We're really trying to get this out. The interviewer then inquires about stories and events that have left a major impression on them over the last 10 years. And Nasu specifically mentions the Dante's Inferno event for Chaldea Boys. He says that the writer did an amazing job this year. They wanted to showcase his love and introduce him during White Day without spoiling Ordeal Call 4. Nasu is happy that the user base was pleased with his implementation. So again, like something like that I'll include because none of that there is actually spoilers. If you guys have paid attention to the JP side of things, you know that Dante was released and you know that he came out with the Chaldea Boys event. You assume he's probably involved in Ordeal Call 4, but you don't know anything else otherwise. And so we'll leave it at that. When it comes to White Day events, though, it's a very unreasonable request due to the restrictions. And this is interesting because I think like reading between the lines here, they implied that for White Day events, they don't want to like have to do new assets and like really like go over the top as they would for a normal event. It sounds like White Day is a almost lesser event in terms of production. Okay. But again, as they say here, that it's a very unreasonable request due to those restrictions. It's so hard for them to produce something of quality due to the fact that they know that they kind of like need to do less with this event. So he says they have to use existing resources and tell an event story for a character that probably either already exists or is brand new or somebody that's maybe only been teased before. So they're kind of restricted and they can't just go all out and use all of their full-blown resources to try to actually like bring the event to life and do it justice. So basically, he says from there that the effort that goes into them motivates him. So this is Nasu speaking. He's saying it motivates him basically, and that they don't want White Day event to become a boring thing. So regardless of those restrictions, they don't want you to feel like it's some phoned-in event or something that they didn't care about. And basically, he says that everybody tries really hard to make sure of that, and that's what kind of helps motivate him, basically. As a supervisor and lead writer, he's very happy with the White Day event's efforts overall. Takuchi adds that being able to come up with a battle idea to make it more interesting is the developer's joy as well. So, like, that is to say, they know they're going to have to make the event interesting some way. They know they're going to be maybe restricted resource-wise. So they go, all right, maybe we'll come up with like a new battle gimmick for it to be a thing. Because it's like, hey, we're not going to maybe like use a bunch of new artwork or like get a bunch of animations done. So let's try to come up with something that can make the event interesting overall. Nasu, he particularly mentions that the Phantasm Moon event was an event like that as well. Which this was interesting to me because if this is the case and they are saying like, hey, they have a, how should I put this? Like restriction on the White Day events. It's interesting to hear that the Phantasm Moon event maybe had one of those as well. But I think you'll see that they're going to talk a little bit about this here coming up. So Nasu chips in that the Phantasm Moon event was supposed to be a thing actually for 2024. Or sorry, no, for 2025 instead of 2024. So literally, it was supposed to happen this year, not at the end of the prior year. And that I found to be really interesting. And this does kind of like get regurgitated later in the interview. But essentially, they moved the Phantasm Moon event and Neko Arc Raid forward a year. And the interviewer asked, why? Why the date change? Why did you do that? And Nasu basically says at that point that if they had a Christmas during the timing of the final chapter, that it's too close and it would be in the way of the final chapter. So I think what he's trying to say is that, like, while they could do one, that the timing that they would normally like to do a Christmas event is right when they're going to be doing the final chapter, and that it would interfere with that. Plus, it would also be very rough on the developers to try to get both out at the same time. So he said that last year, after they finished Ordeal Call 3, everything actually calmed down, and they didn't have a big story for after Ordeal Call 3 for that year. So they came up with the idea to do a double Christmas. He said they wanted to give the players 1 week at the end of the year to just enjoy the Phantasm Moon and relax. And I added in that this is kind of ironic because anybody that was playing on JP at the time knows that that was actually kind of stressful instead. I'm going to say that they kind of failed in that regard. Like, it was an enjoyable event and there was some really, really nice stuff and everyone was loving the vibe of like Neko Arc being a thing and everything, but it was stressful in the sense of the raids, and that was not like well presented or well handled on the devs' part. So it ended up kind of being a little bit of a mixed bag in that sense. Takuchi says, to tell the truth, this project was actually very difficult because it comes right after Christmas. He said, and they wanted something enjoyable to carry them to the New Year's. And if you guys remember for the Mr. Chu interview, he also stated that Nasu directed him to make it as a year-end event of ringing the bell to bring in the new year. So you can kind of see that here too, where Takeuchi's basically kind of seconding that idea that hey, this was the thing. It was supposed to come right after Christmas, but this is kind of what makes it difficult. In the end, they went with Nasu's idea to ring the bell of the cat. And, Trubs clarified this is Neko Arc is who they're talking about. And a lot of the staff said it would be fun. And so they went with the idea. So it's kind of something that they workshopped around and everyone was like, hey, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. So let's go with this. Nasu wanted the player base to ring the bell, literally do the raid, as much as they could on New Year's Eve. After all, Neko Arc is the soul of the world's desires of the player. So, I think the way to interpret this is Nasu being kind of flowery with his speech, but it's basically him saying, this is what the player base wanted. And so they made that happen, and he wanted everybody to experience it to its fullest. The interviewer states that Nasu has frequently said that he wanted people to have one more experience with the Temple of Time raid. So now he's referring to Nasu's prior comments in prior years and interviews about him wanting people to have one more experience with the Solomon Singularity raids. And the interviewer says he was thinking to himself while he was farming the raid that this must be what Nasu wanted. Nasu said that it was unexpected that beating down Neko Arc was so amusing. He attributes this to the power of the background music, as chat's hearing right now, and voice acting. Basically, he says that the voice actor for Neko Arc just knocked it out of the park. It was great. So, it was so fun beating up Neko Arc because of that. The interviewer asks if this was released early, then do we get a Christmas event this year? So in 2025, are we going to get a Christmas event? Nasu unfortunately explicitly stated no. There will be no Christmas event before the final chapter, and that this is why 2024 was a double event instead. There will be no Christmas event this year. So the interviewer asked what the reason was for making Phantasm Moon a VTuber in the end. So now they're talking about actual pretender Arcuid here. And Nasu says they decided on making Phantasm Moon, but they never really had an idea of what Arcuid's alien and space form would be like. So they knew they wanted to make another version of Arcuid, but the idea that they came to them is hey, what about a version of her from space? So they had her think of, why don't I sell myself as an alien being from space, and I'll make myself a VTuber while I'm at it. So the reason that they came up with for her being a VTuber was apparently due to Mr. Takenashi's idea. For reference, chat, this is not Takeuchi, this is Takenashi. Instead, Takenashi is the person that basically was in charge of creating Carnival Phantasm and coming up with the idea of a like Sailor Moon Arcuid, and that's what turned into this. So the interviewer asks about the Ascension 2 and says that during her live stream, the comment sections were quite hilarious. If you guys are familiar with her second Ascension, she's basically sitting in front of a screen, and I think she also actually like punches the screen at one point or throws her controller through it basically because she's fed up. But literally it's like there is the comment section scrolling of like actual like interesting comments from the sort of peanut gallery, if you will. Nasu says that a lot of servants watched the live stream and gave advice however they wanted. He asked that basically on the side, like behind the scenes, he asked the writers group to come up with like some fun comments and contribute them. And that's what they did. And so it's like they basically made it as if they were coming from the servants. And it was sort of like hilarious, like stream comments, like gaslighting and mocking and stuff like that. The interviewer asks, does Arcuid, though, exist in the universe timeline? So if you're not familiar with what this means, the universe timeline, because this will kind of come up a couple other times from here on out, the universe timeline is the servant universe, aka the servant verse. So he's asking, does Arcuid exist in the servant verse timeline? And Nasu says at first she was supposed to fight Seal, and Arcuid would be saying, I want to be space if she can be space and be a foreigner class. But the design changes occurred like 2 to 3 times after that point. In the end, they made her into a pretender, meaning there is no space phantasm moon. That is to say, and again, I asked Trubs for some additional context of like, what the heck were they meaning here? Because earlier in the interview, he just said, this is space phantasm moon, right? Like, this is space Arcuid. This is the what if she's space. He's saying she's not. That is why she's a pretender. She's pretending to be from space. She's pretending to be an alien because she's kind of trying to compete with Seal a little bit on the side. So Seal is actually from the servant verse. Phantasm Moon is not. The interviewer asks about archetype Earth then, and then asks if she is a space version or if she has a space version. And Nasu explicitly says, no, don't exist, don't exist. In other words, like, no, she's not. Don't go there. We're not talking about that. That's not a thing. So he just immediately shut down the idea. So from here, chat, we're going to start some Ordeal Call 4 spoilers. Just keep that in mind. You've been warned. And there will be one other segment that's not spoiler here so far from what I've translated. Well, not translated, but summarized from Trubs' translation. But keep in mind, we're headed into spoiler territory now. Like, how spoilery? They will discuss characters from the Ordeal Calls and their designs and why. So you will get a little bit of story spoiler. There is a particularly big Ordeal Call 4 spoiler, but that's more towards the end. So you've been warned. Here we go. So starting with the Ordeal Call 4 spoilers. The interviewer asked them to tell them the most impressionable servants. Nasu says that they've been waiting for MASH for a long time. She was going to be our welfare SSR. We definitely wanted to first lower her cost and make her animations on the side. However, we ended up stacking a lot of like ideas and things on her. So basically they're saying they wanted MASH to be the welfare SSR. If you guys remember, a lot of us were predicting Olga to maybe be a welfare SSR that got given out. It's clear that that was always the deal with MASH, and that's probably, like, to a degree why we don't get Olga for free, and instead she is a gacha unit, is they wanted that to be special for MASH. And then he said that he's really happy that this happened and that they got to move this year. He's also happy that they got to move to this year the Phantasm Moon event and that was really exciting. So again, he's kind of just rattling off a couple things here. Takeuchi then adds that whenever it comes to asking for character designs to happen, they actually compile a bunch of ideas in a file and then decide what direction to take them. So they'll have a meeting, they'll discuss the various like concepts, and then they'll start creating drafts of what they want to see. He says, however, there are times when the artists and scheduling don't mesh up well. And so we aren't able to necessarily take a step forwards towards introducing them. So like, basically, things can kind of grind to a halt if people's schedules don't align. He does say that, however, personally, Takeuchi enjoyed Lilith's design. And he basically, on hearing about the character and what the character was supposed to be, he knew he immediately wanted the artist Nippy to draw her design. So when he knew that she would be added to Ordeal Call 4, he pulled the trigger and asked Nippy to handle it. It was quite rough for Nippy to be in charge of her design because that was their first time being in charge of a character design for the game. So he talked about how like it was a real struggle and that like, kind of a lot of things were, maybe not like going smoothly, right? But he did say that while they were struggling on it, it began to slowly come together. And finally, by the final draft, her character began to truly take form in the shape that you guys see it now. He did say when most of the character design is finalized, they start to show it to the lead writers in charge of a story section. And then the writer instantly will say, hey, I want to change the story to be around the new design of the character. So the writer is writing their own rough drafts and their own kind of overarching version of the story. And then they get shown the characters in the end, and then they change the story to work around that character and their design, which I think is actually really cool. And I think this is kind of a testament to the overall storytelling prowess that they have, that they can do this and that we just end up liking so much of the story that does get implemented. So it's really cool, and I think it just kind of shows you how character-centric the stories are, that even the story itself will change to suit their design. He then says, Nasu interjects and says that at first, she was supposed to be a more physically aggressive girl. But they toned that down and made her a good girl. And basically, reading between the lines, they made her passive aggressive. So it's not that she's good. It's basically she was a lot more physical, in your face, confrontational. Now she's a lot more passive aggressive with how she handles things. Lilith was definitely a provoker of MASH in this entire role. And they needed to find a balance so that characters wouldn't get angry and hate her, but instead appreciate the interaction. So I think they knew, and they kind of talked about it. There's a fine line of if we make the character too antagonistic, people are gonna hate that character. Because naturally they like MASH, they like the protagonist, they like, the good guys in a lot of ways. And so if they make somebody too antagonistic towards characters that they feel strongly about and have been with for years, you're not going to like that new character. So they said that they had to make it so that she could be antagonistic, but not so much that it would upset the player base, but then also somebody that could kind of be that confrontation, that drama that they needed, basically. Nasu then goes on to say that in the very first draft, Lilith was a lot more of a cruel, gruesome, and gory character that was a lot harder to deal with. So, in that regard, just someone that's very intense, someone that's very like in your face, right? It was a character that's going to attack MASH with her own personal feelings. So they had to adjust her from a bully to somebody that instead would like logically hate MASH. So somebody that has good reasons for acting the way that she does and is justified a little bit in it, rather than somebody that's just being an asshole to be an asshole. So he said that they adjusted and came up with the idea of Lilith in her current form. And they created her so that at first you wouldn't understand her, but in the end, you would get her. So like when you're first starting the story, you don't know why she's doing what she's doing. You don't understand why she is the way that she is. But then by the end of the story, you get it. You understand everything. Takuchi answers that you could definitely feel the writer's efforts to make this happen and to convey these feelings, and that they hope that the user base would feel it as well. He says that in the end, the writers and the artists were rewarded for their efforts, since the players seem to have had very positive reviews of Ordeal Call 4 as well. So he's saying they pulled it off. Like, people did like Lilith in the end, and they enjoyed the interactions overall, and they liked the characters. And so that is going to be the end of the Ordeal Call spoilers for now. Okay, so now we're in non-spoiler territory here. Nelson, thank you for the prime. Appreciate it, my man. Chat, can we get some love? And so continuing on, the interviewer says that during last year's interview, you specifically said there was something big coming gameplay-wise. And he asks him, was that the Grand Graft system? And Nasu says that while starting to like create part 1, they did everything they could during the first part of the story's run. So like basically for the singularities, for Solomon Temple of Time, for all that, they did everything they could back then. So while they were starting the creation for part 2, basically that's when he came up with a new idea, that the thought came into his mind of creating a grand servant that you could personally pick. So again, like the grands are somebody that are kind of featured a little bit in part 1, or at least they're mentioned, they're brought up. And he's saying when we started out like coming up with stuff to do for part 2, he had the thought of, what if we basically let the players choose their own? So instead of, the counter force being like, hey, we need a grand in here stat, instead, this is literally the player gets to choose who the grand is. He says that in regular Fate, and this one was a little bit confusing. He says in regular Fate, a heroic spirit summoning system has 7 servants summoned to fight a beast and destroy them. So I don't know if he's just meaning 7 servants in a normal Grail War, or if he's meaning specifically when there's a beast, there is going to be 7 servants summoned to fight against that beast. That sounds like what he's saying, but it is interesting because in FGO, that is not the case at all. So that has been a very, very interesting line for me in that regard. He says, so basically, if they were able to pick their, and he literally uses the term oishi, if they're literally able to pick their grand, their oishis, their literal favorites, that it would be a wonderful idea and experience. This system idea was constantly thrown at the devs. So like, basically, you're going to see throughout this interview, Nasu keeps coming up with ideas, and basically the devs are just trying to go about their day. They're trying to like do their job. They're trying to like get stuff developed and produced. And Nasu just keeps being like, we need to add this. We need to add this. I had an idea. We need to add this. That is literally how this comes across. Nasu basically keeps harassing the devs until he gets what he wants. So It was something they wanted to make a reality, and they did their very best to do so. So in other words, in the end, the devs wanted to do it as well. They thought it was a good idea, and they went with his idea. But it's interesting to see. It's like, yes, he gets a lot of like pushback at first. He says the reason they had an ordeal call before the final chapter was because they didn't want to just throw out grands right off the bat and make people rush their grand choices. So in other words, he's telling you guys the reason that they didn't want to end the story with Lost Belt 7 and then go into the final chapter, the reason they started doing the ordeal calls is because of the grand system. He wanted there to be some story. He wanted this to develop over time. He wanted to give you guys time to come up with who your grand should be. That's an interesting thing, because it does tell you that the grand system's been planned for quite a while, and that is maybe the reason for the like part 2 extension over that time. I think there's maybe a little bit of bullshit in there, and that has to do with Nasu's balancing of things and working on other projects on the side. But it is at least interesting to see that that's the logic he came up with. He says, so they created a preparation time so that you'd have the time to pick your 7 servants and then finally get to the end. Okay, no, we're good. Hello, welcome everybody from PhenoStream. Thank you guys for the raid. I wanted to make sure like we weren't in a spoiler section. We are going over the Nasu and Takeuchi interview, and you actually caught me at the perfect time. I'm right in between spoiler sections of this interview. So, hello everybody. How's it going? What were you guys up to? I think were you streaming Uma Musume, or it was another gacha game, I feel like. Technically, they could have started earlier, like between 6 and 7, but I assume it's scheduling issues. Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like, there's maybe a little bit of bullshitting in there, but it's interesting. Honkai Starwell, thank you. Ryan for Saber, is her banner still up? Like, I have no idea how long the collab for them lasts. I assume it's... Actually, yeah, I guess I assume for them, like, if it functions similar to, like, Genshin and stuff, events probably run over, like, the course of, like, a month or something, so... Oishis like delicious or tasty. Oishis are related to their standing and idol culture. Yeah, 100%. Like, and that's why, like, he used the term there earlier as well. Apparently the event ends soon, but the banner lasts longer. Of course. Of course. I mean, I don't blame them, right? I'm sure that banner's made them a lot of money, so... HSR banners last, like, 4 patches for Saber. Oh, wow. Holy crap. HLS, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Banner's up for at least 2 more patches from 3.4 to 3.6, and it's still open-end. I see. Yeah, so we went over the Mr. 2 interview last night, and tonight we are now going over the interview with Nasu and Takeuchi. This is all from the Famitsu magazine that they produce every single anniversary, and so this is the Annie 10 interview, so you guys can definitely stick around if you guys want. There's absolutely some riveting stuff coming out of this, but also at the same time, just be warned, because this particular interview has a ton of spoilers. So I have told chat I will let them know when the spoiler sections begin, but we are probably going to come up on one very soon here. There's no end date for it in game. Oh, that's wild. Granted, I'm sure also to some degree they probably have the capacity to like rerun it at some point. Like that's probably something that they secured with Nasu's blessing, because I know Nasu was like raving about Honkai. Ugh. Nah. I would think they could. They don't do that there. Okay. Yeah, I mean that might be a thing. So wait, like are there just never rerun banners for units? Is it always like infinite FOMO? Because yikes, if that's the case. They definitely can and maybe will. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, we'll see, right? I don't know. They haven't done any reruns in the past for other collabs. Interesting. Not that they can't, they just haven't. I mean, usually stuff like that is due to contractual obligations, I assume. So it's like they get permission to do a collab and to do a unit, but then like it maybe ends or something. It could also be a case of there's maybe like a revenue share. So like maybe let's just, you know, throw out simple numbers, right? But maybe like 50% goes to HSR and the other 50% goes to like the collab. So it could be something where it's like they're disincentivized from running those banners again because they have to split revenue. You never know, right? Like something like that could be the case, and they go like, nah, I don't want to give them money. We want all the money for ourselves. We'll just rerun a different unit. And Honkai Impact 3rd, I think they never reran the Evo collab. Interesting. Nasu and HSR boss literally love each other's work. There's no reason for them not to. Yeah, I mean, I think I could come up with reasons for them not to, but that's why I was saying it's like it wouldn't surprise me if they did, just from the simple standpoint of like Nasu seems to like again like really like the HSR like game and style. So I think he was excited to collab with them. I think the event is permanent, but limited rewards won't be available. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so chat, we are going to continue on. Thank you again, Mr. Fino, for the raid. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to pick up right where I left off, although, chat, where did I leave off? We're just talking about Oishis and the Grands. Okay, yeah, so we were right here. Basically... So continuing on where we left off, the interviewer asks if we can get extra class grands for every extra class. And can we do anything about that? And this is interesting because Nasu actually agrees and he says he knows. He says he brings it up at every meeting. And he says he always gets brushed off and they chalk it up to him coming up with another weird idea again. Nasu then goes on to say, he goes into like a miniature rant here. And he basically says he wants grand foreigners and grand moon cancers and grand alter egos. And he says no matter how much he recommends and tells them, they'd say it's a little too much and put it to the side. He says, don't worry. He's telling them that that's extra class segregation. He's basically saying like, you're actually like being like bigoted towards the extra classes. So he says he's constantly yelling at them to do something about it. And he says that they have some idea that they could emergency patch it if they could. He says, but the greed of asking too much is making it difficult. So basically like Nasu really wants there to be a grand for every extra class. The devs keep poo-pooing the idea because they basically, like, it's too much work. They're like, no, we don't have time for this. Like, stop asking. In other words, it sounds like it's something that, like, they want to do, and it's not something that the devs are necessarily opposed to do, but it's more work, and they're kind of like you hear this repeatedly in the Mr. 2 interview as well, that like the devs are just super focused. They're laser focused right now on just getting to the final chapter. That is their goal. They don't want anything to interfere with that. And so it sounds like they're like shutting down his other ideas. The interviewer asks if you can pick 2 servants as an extra class. With MASH on the first one, clearly you've only got you're only left with one more choice. So literally the interviewer's actually just implying that, of course, like, you're gonna pick MASH. So like, if that's the case, then there's only one other choice. Doesn't that like kind of cause a problem? And Nasu says that everyone's grands are unique. and that he believes a lot of people would love to grand mash as well. He says, in his mind, he'd love to grand his Arcuate and his Aoko. So you can see where maybe his miniature rant about, like, foreigners and moon cancers came from. He said he's already set in stone on his 7 main classes, but when it comes to his extra classes, he's not set in stone. So this is Nasu still talking. And he says he'd like to do something about it, but they can't at the moment. And he says, while it's a struggle, he's like, he basically asked for everyone to please come up with a decision on their own, because since he has to come up with a decision on his own, you have to too. So the interviewer states that there is still a lot of time to figure that out, and then asks what their criteria is for picking the grand duel. This is my word here, the grand duel antagonists. It was hard to come up with like the servant that they're saying, but it was unclear. Like, he's like, oh, what's the criteria for a grand servant is almost what it sounded like they were asking. But no, they literally meant like, what's the criteria for like who you choose to be like the person that we fight against in the each battle. And Nasu says that they want a heroic spirit that the user base can kind of agree on would make sense. He says they do want to throw some curveballs in and surprise people, though. So, like, it's not necessarily all, like, set in stone, and it's not, like, the go-to one necessarily that everyone, like, thinks should be it. It's just somebody that makes sense in the role, is basically what he's trying to say. So yeah, I think like looking at that, you can say like Indra is probably one of those curveballs, right? Where like he is literally just introduced out of thin air and then immediately is bragging that he's the grand servant. And then in the grand duel that happens right after his event, he is. So yeah, I think like that is a curveball that they're kind of mentioning there. Basically says at the core, though, they want it to be satisfying and somebody that you would want to fight against. He says, thanks to them being a grand, they're also a bit stronger than normal. And the interviewer says that the new Noble Phantasm animation was quite the surprise. So what the interviewer is referring to here is Musashi. He's talking about the very first grand duel with Saber there, how Musashi had a brand new Noble Phantasm, and everyone's like, wow. And this part kind of pissed me off, chat. So you'll see. Nasu says basically that he's like, by the way, why don't we update the normal Musashi NP to the grand version? But the answer was that only people who have Musashi would benefit. So literally, Nasu said, hey, let's update normal Musashi's NP to the grand version that you guys saw that looked so badass. But he basically got told that the answer is that only people that have Musashi would benefit. And the devs basically said no. And that if they had done this, they think that everyone would grand Musashi as their choice. And I had it in. It's like, what the fuck is this warped logic? Like, that just actually does sound like bullshit. Like, yes, that would make Musashi look so nice, but it sounds like now Musashi fans just don't get something nice and special because the devs seem to think that if they gave her that everyone would grand specifically her. And I'm like, hold on, like there's bias regardless of what you do. Like, if you go look at people's grand choices, like literally some of them are the most popular characters of their class. And that is just inherent bias right there. So it's like making another character popular isn't a problem at that point. Like, basically, to me, the way this reads is that the devs were unwilling to give it to her because they felt like it'd be like giving her some sort of like extra leg up. But from a player's perspective, from my perspective, that sounds like total BS, because this is just, hey, can Musashi get a Noble Phantasm animation update? And the devs basically just said, even though we made one, no. And like, that's where it's like, yeah, I don't agree with the devs here. I think the devs are off their rocker. Takuchi said that as a grand heroic spirit, we need to prepare for the servant to be able to withstand a lot of battles. So Takuchi starts talking shop here, like, hey, like, you know, now that we've chosen the grand, you know, we got to prepare that servant. They have to be able to withstand a lot of battles. So he basically wanted them all to be AoE. So he's not saying that the requirement to be a grand antagonist is that you are an AoE unit. Again, example would be Musashi, right? He's saying if you are a grand antagonist, they're going to change you to have AoE attacks. And he says when it comes to Musashi, we were thinking, how much can we put on her? We said basic motion animation wouldn't change as much as before. So this was kind of a weird line, and it was basically the equivalent of like, it sounded like they were trying to wrestle with like how much did they improve her like animations and stuff for this, and they said, okay, let's maybe go with something simpler. So like they were maybe thinking like maybe we should go all out, and then they were like, no, that's a lot of work, let's maybe not do that. He said they thought about completely overhauling her animations and revamping her from scratch, but they decided to just change her NP instead. Which technically isn't true, because we do know that they did at least change, like they gave her a unique death animation on a couple of them. He did say, from here on out, though, all the grand heroic spirits have their own unique personal noble phantasm prepared, and that he would like you to experience them. I gotta be honest, chat, I actually didn't know this because I think there's a lot of them that I haven't seen the NP for. Because I have just absolutely slobber knocked them. And so, like, because I just sit there killing them over and over again, I never get to see their NP. He goes, they really wanted to make you feel like you're fighting against a grand servant. So again, you can see they're just kind of recapping and TLDRing all of that, chat. Basically, they want the grand servant to be somebody that makes sense. They want it to be someone that would be satisfying to fight against. So somebody that, like, not that you hate, but like, hey, you want to have a duel against them. So like, that's where like Musashi is a great choice. Same thing with Hercules. It's like, they're these like battle hardened people that it's like, it's going to be a fun fight against them. Nasu says, which servant will become a grand heroic spirit to fight against is becoming a fun thing to try and predict. So in other words, it sounds like Nasu is one himself, like interested to see like how the devs are coming up with it. But two, it sounds like he's also like, from the player's perspective, it's kind of a fun thing to like watch them theory craft and try to like come up with who they think it's going to be. The interviewer then asks about the grand class cards and how each of them was made and decided upon. And I added a little bit of context here, and that's that what they're specifically talking about is, you know, the special card art that they have, not like the border around your character, right? The special card art that they made for each of the grand classes that you get a craft essence of once you complete your grand. Okay, and you win that like final challenge fight, and then you get that craft essence. That's what they're talking about. Like, how did you come up with those designs? Like, basically the grand version of the original like Fate Stay Night like servant archetype appearances. He said that they needed to create a class card specifically for grand usage, and because they knew they would have to showcase it one way or the other. I think this is an interesting thing because it sounds to me like he's like, oh, we've got to come up with this because we know we're going to show it off. It's inevitable. But what's interesting here is we definitely have like fought against grands in the past, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't trot something like this out. So something tells me, even though he's making it sound like this is something that they've planned for a while, I don't think this was like ready at all in part 1, nor do I think it was ready even for the vast majority of part 2. I think like This is something that's maybe come to fruition in the past like 2 years, I would bet. Because otherwise, like, that would have been a cool thing to like show off when you were fighting against a Grand at certain points in the story. He said, so they asked for commissions on depictions at a very early stage. This is interesting, but if you've never really realized this, a lot of the artists with them work off of commission. And, you know, naturally, that's the way a lot of things are done in, like, the modern corporate world. You'll also see some artists are, like, on retainer. They're literally on contract the entire time. But basically, it sounds like they actually commissioned an artist to do this, but it may be not necessarily that they're paying them, but rather that they tasked the artist to do it. It's a little bit unsure. It's a little bit unclear here what they're meaning, but basically they commissioned at a very early stage for that. And he said they came to the conclusion that they couldn't ask Mr. Sakamoto to just come up with it. This is another person in Tight Moon. He said they held a meeting to add more elements and materials to the cards to help the commission. So in other words, they had a like brain trust meeting of coming up with basically like ideas and concepts that they wanted to see. He said they played around with the drafts, but it never felt like it showed the power of a Grand. So in other words, all the drafts they came up with were unsatisfying. It didn't feel like it was actually showcasing the power that it needed to. He said in the end, they went with the theme of the stars in the night sky to give that grand impression and feeling. And he kind of like waxes philosophic at this point and starts talking about like the beauty of it and everything like that. He says, and because they got a lot of really cool class cards, the final product is what looks like that's why it looks so amazing. And the interviewer asked then about the Grand Extra class cards and whether or not they exist. And this is the part where I just want to remind you guys, this interview was conducted prior to the anniversary. So the Famitsu interview comes out after the anniversary, but the interview is obviously done ahead of time. So they have to like, you know, proofread it, editorialize it, type it all up, get it all looking snazzy to put in the magazine. So basically the interviewer is asking this because the interviewer doesn't know and the anniversary revelations haven't happened yet. So Takuchi said, yes, there were extra Grand class cards, but that they would look a little bit different than the base class cards and to look forward to it. So that, because he knew, like, by the time this comes out, all of that'll already be revealed. Okay, chat. Ordeal Call 3 spoilers now. This is going to be dealing with BB. This is going to be dealing with the antagonist of Ordeal Call 3. And so there's going to be a little bit of stuff here. So like I said, you've been warned. Spoiler time starts now. So the interviewer states, this is the 4th generation AI boom. And he's talking like in real life here. So he asked, did Mr. Nasu aim for that? Like with relation to Ordeal Call 3? And Nasu answers, when he was making the plot for Ordeal Call 3, it was for moon cancers. And because it was about moon cancers, it was about BB. And because it was about BB, it was always meant to be about AI and be for AI. He says, however, when he created it originally, AI wasn't like as prevalent yet. Like we didn't have like a lot of the like modern stuff when he came up with this concept. He said he had a mood that a lot of things would be replaced by AI, and he wrote a story based off of that. He said, however, during 2023, AI advancements went way above his own imagination as well, and he didn't really want to talk about a battle between like AI and humanity. So he basically changed the plot a little bit to talk about a future that is far afterwards such a point. So in other words, after like a potential battle of AI and humanity. He said he wanted to convey the dangers of AI, but also go beyond that. In the end, he says the story matches up with the era and the timeline and the topic at hand. So they kind of got lucky. Basically, like, because Ordeal Call 3 comes out right after this AI boom is happening in real life, it's just this like perfect confluence of factors. It makes it look like the story was super relevant to modern events. And he basically is just attributing it to luck. The interviewer asks about the AIs that show up in the story and why specifically they are so kind and happy and good-natured. And Nasu says that his story isn't about the current modern AI advances, that it would become like that. About if the current modern AI advances would become like that. So he's saying like, hey, it's not a what if that would happen, right? He's saying, but rather he's trying to tell a story that kind of says that we need to create an AI that will be intelligent and understanding of like us and humanity as a whole, or we will all perish. He's trying to tell a little bit of a like tale that incentivizes us to create a good-natured AI. And the interviewer interjects and says, at the current stage of AI advancement, to make it into the Ordeal Call 3 AI would be a very difficult task. In other words, like, with where things are now, trying to reach what they have in Ordeal Call 3 would be just a really, really big leap. And Nasu agrees with the interviewer and says that the reason the AI was kind-hearted is because it was actually from before the boom of social media. Basically, the AI advancement in Ordeal Call 3's timeline had outpaced the advancement of even things like social media. So it's like AI got developed and blew up before social media was even a thing. And he attributes that to the reason that the AI is kind-hearted. In other words, because the AI is not trained off of social media, the AI is kind-hearted. It is not an asshole. It is not an emulation of humanity's worst aspects. And he basically says that what he wanted to convey is that humans should try their best to make such a kind of AI rather than that alternative. So in other words, rather than making something that's trained off of the social media boom, we should be trying to make an AI that understands humanity and is kind-hearted and is benevolent, right? The interviewer asks why Ordeal Call 3 is set exactly 1,000 years after 2017. And Nasu states that the reason is because it will most likely take us 1,000 years to get to that point, put simply. This is a little bit of a question dodge, because I think the interviewer wanted to know, like, why'd you pick 3017 as the date? And Nasu's just like, oh, it's because it would take us 1,000 years to get to that point. And he said that if a kind-hearted and understanding AI would govern over humanity, that we would definitely prosper for almost all of eternity. So in other words, like, a future in which humanity is governed by this benevolent, kind-hearted, intelligent, and understanding AI is a future in which humanity just prospers, like infinitely, pretty much. But he says, however, if you were to give control over to the AI, that humanity would not evolve, despite not going extinct. So in other words, we would stagnate. And he goes, with that situation, the entire world eventually gets enveloped in darkness. And he says that the one that tries to draw a curtain on it is the boss of that ordeal call. So in other words, the one that's trying to put an end to humanity and its stagnation. The interviewer asks during this time that old humanity was extinguished. He goes, where are all the mages? What are the mages doing during this time? And Nasu says that part of them actually just straight up returned to the root. They managed to pull it off. They succeeded. They got to the root. And he says, basically, the interviewer wonders if they were able to reach the root due to being able to expand their lifespans. And Nasu confirms. He goes, yes, some of them did. And he goes, some of them also just failed, and some of them just gave up and retired as well. So, like, basically, the mages either reached the root or kind of just, like, gave up. And he says, by the way, in the Ordeal Call world, there was a mention of Velpar. And he goes, how were they able to overcome him? And Nasu states that the AI advancements that were so great that, of course, they were able to overcome it. And he also adds, but simultaneously, like, Velpar didn't care because he didn't need to destroy a civilization that wasn't evolving. So he's like, because humanity was just stagnant, Velpar was kind of like, I'm not going to try completely. And that's why they were able to repel him. And he goes, however, if there's a continuation of Fate Extella, you'll understand the reasoning of the movements of Velpar. But until that time comes, he can't say anything about that. Yeah, I think it's Velber. I was literally going off of what Trubs was saying. So you are right. I probably need to change that. It is Velber. Thank you, chat. And this is interesting because next we're about to get a line that's going to deeply upset people. It is I that just says it like that. Thank you. So basically, he goes, hey, if there's a continuation of Fate Extella, you'll understand why Velber acts the way that he does. But until the time comes, he can't say anything about that. And the interviewer asks, so you had a continuation in mind? And Nasu confirms that he had plans all the way up to Fate Extella 3. And he goes, but because FGO started, he couldn't do it. And then he says, if he didn't come up with a conclusion for that, he wouldn't have written about Velber 1, 2, and 3 in the first place without any reasoning for it. So in other words, of course there's more. That's why Nasu's not somebody that's going to half-ass something. He literally has a conclusion in mind for it, but he hasn't been able to do it because of his involvement with FGO. Yeah, I mean, you guys know, I've talked about this before, but it's like Nasu has a tendency to blame a lot of like his frustrations on FGO, and certainly FGO takes up a lot of his time. But this is also goes back to Nasu just kind of being a control freak. He's absolutely like anal retentive when it comes to the quality control of all of his products. So it's like he doesn't really like to delegate. He doesn't really like to let things go. He has to have all of his irons in the fire. He has to be like involved in everything. And so because of that, naturally, since he can't delegate at all, he just ends up taking up way too much of his time. And so that part's kind of on him. But there's also the fact, and Chad, I think we all know this, that on the side, like, even when FGO wasn't in the case, Nasu was not maybe necessarily the most productive guy. In the sense of he clearly had several years to do things like the Tsukihime remake before FGO, but then didn't. And why not? Probably because A, he was deciding to work on FGO on the side and getting the story prepped for stuff like that, getting the idea, the concept down, and also because he was working on other projects, and also because he was maybe playing Souls-like. So it is what it is. Like, I think at this point, Nasu really wants to blame FGO for a lot of stuff, but this is kind of just him coping and trying to come up with an excuse for why he hasn't been able to do it. Okay, so that is the end of the Ordeal Call 3 spoilers. Unfortunately, chat, we now go into another small segment with no spoilers, but then we are going to go into Ordeal Call 3 spoilers again. And I'll probably cut after this small segment, so just keep that in mind. The interviewer asks about the Passion Lip swimsuit now. And he basically says, like, hey, you know, like, I saw a Passion Lip swimsuit last summer. What's up with that? Are we going to get Passion Lip? And Nasu says, listen. I've been saying I want Passion Lip as a swimsuit for years. But Takeuchi said no and shut me down all the time. So he's blaming Takeuchi. And he goes, but I asked Wada Arco, just as a test drive, to create a swimsuit Passion Lip just to be used as an NPC. Since Takeuchi wouldn't let me. And he says, the second Takeuchi saw the NPC version, he instantly said, Lip can do it. And Nasu immediately said, like, he was thinking, you bastard. Like the second he saw it, he's okay with it now. Which is exactly why Takeuchi is absolutely based. And you'll see that here in a second, chat. And he goes, that's how great Wada Arco made Passion Lip Summer. And he says, despite him being adamantly against it all these years, he was instantly okay with it. And Takeuchi answers, man, I gotta say, that was amazing. He goes, I felt Wada Arco's power and understanding of her characters in a way to make things necessary. So in other words, Wada Arco did such a good job. It's like, this is now necessary. We have to do this. And then Nasu kind of clarifies. He's actually, like chat, low key, Nasu has been throwing Takeuchi under the bus. And you'll see why here. And to be fair, when Nasu made that comment in the prior year anniversary interview, I told you guys, I thought Nasu was full of shit. And he was. You'll see why. Nasu explains that if we were to make Lip into a swimsuit, it might have been too erotic. And it might have reached the point of being too much. He goes, Takeuchi shows respect, saying there were a lot of symbols of explaining her characteristics of Passion Lip that was included in her swimsuit. And then he says, so this is Takeuchi continuing, he goes, in a modern time like this, they were very afraid that it wouldn't be okay to showcase Passion Lip in a swimsuit. So he's literally referring to censorship and the fact that if we were to do this, it would negatively impact the game's ratings and that we would be in a little bit of trouble. So basically this entire time, Nasu has been throwing Takeuchi under the bus and saying, Takeuchi's the reason we can't do this. And Takeuchi's just the one that's like actually being like, I mean, I want to, but like, this is gonna hurt us if we do this. So basically, Takeuchi's just looking out for things. And he goes, but because Wada Arco was basically able to draw Lip as a girl instead of as a monster, he was at awe and recognized her immense talent. And the interviewer asks if that means there will be a playable character for her soon. So again, this is before anniversary. And Nasu says, by the time this interview goes live, the player base will be crying for their new Passion Lip. So, he goes, by the way, we were thinking of just making it a costume to get it done. But it was done so well that they felt ending it at just that would be a disservice. So, chat, let me again clarify that this is probably Nasu just gaslighting. Because Nasu's saying, hey, I was so desperate to make this happen, I was going to make it a costume. And instead, after seeing the mock-up, Takeuchi's like, no, we're going all out. So, in a weird way, the reason you actually have Passion Lip Summer is not because Takeuchi prevented it, it's because Takeuchi did it. Like, he actually went full bore with it in Takeuchi's typical way. And that's why I said, like, back in the Annie 9 interview comments, I was like, this doesn't add up. Like, Takeuchi is normally the guy that's, like, very based and wants the, like, super sexy designs, right? And the anecdote that I use for this chat, because this came out in the, like, servant materials and stuff, but Ishida, the artist for Lartoria, actually talks about the initial design concept for Lartoria, and he says that Takeuchi told him that he wanted it to be a more adult and mature Artoria. It's Artoria as if she's fully grown up into being a woman. And so basically, Ishida came up with a bunch of drafts and had them side by side, and he showed them to Takeuchi. And he said he had to laugh because Takeuchi just immediately picked the one that had the biggest bust. So, like I said, with anecdotes like that, you know Takeuchi is pretty based on designs. That's the whole reason why you get what you get. So, it sounded really weird to say, oh, Takeuchi's what's preventing Passion Lip. And it's like, to a degree, yes, but it's more like Nasu just sitting there being like, I want it, and Takeuchi being like, bro, we're gonna get censored. We're gonna get, like, told that we can't do this, or we're gonna get the rating for the game knocked because of that. So it's like, Takeuchi was just, if anything, the voice of reason at that time. But basically, again, the reason you got a full-fledged servant is because he gave the okay and he said, let's go all out. She can do it now. And reading between the lines, it sounds like it's because Water Arco came up with the design that would work. And that's probably why, like, in the version of her that you see, chat, like, yeah, she's got a bunch of cleavage, but she also has that, like, fanny pack right in front of the most dangerous part. So it's like, yeah, basically, Water Arco managed to make it work. Nasu then says that when it comes to rarity, and he doesn't mean like class rarity, like a 5-star or 4-star. He means like appearance rarity. He goes, when it comes to rarity, she has now caught up with the other released Sakura 5s. So I added released because he didn't say that. He just said the other Sakura 5s. But this does lead into a question later on in the interview of the interviewer asking about the current missing member of the Sakura 5. And he says that Wada Arco personally loves this servant as well. And basically, he ends it by saying, this segment by saying, it's Wada Arco's best servant that she's released so far, so please enjoy. So, again, he's just hyping up Passion Lip. They're excited for her, and they're excited that they managed to get it done. Okay, chat. I am going to end it there for tonight. We will continue this more probably on like Monday, because one, I'm going to need more time to transcribe more of the article. But like I said, there were 2 whole more sections that we didn't even get to that I've already transcribed. So that's a thing. But yeah, there is a whole lot here. This is a really, really long interview, and it's a really, really interesting one. So again, I hope you guys stick around for that. In the meantime, let me see who all's on. Let me see who we can find to love. I see a Mr. Fox on. Let's go give that man some support. I haven't gotten a raid Fox all week. I spelled it wrong. There we go. Okay. So again, I'll be back. I should be back with you guys tomorrow. Sunday is a little bit more up in the air. I don't think I'll be streaming Sunday. It is technically my mother's birthday, so we will be celebrating it on that day. And I may or may not be back in time to stream, or I may just take the day off. So we'll just have to see. But again, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Go give Mr. Fox first my love. And if you haven't already, join the Discord, subscribe to the YouTube, follow Twitch, Twitter, you name it. I'll see you guys for the next one.